Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on November the 14th, 2017. I'm your host, Game Psychologist, and with me, as always, my favorite accuser.
Oh my. Caffeine Rage. I did not touch Jared. I did not. Oh, hi, Jared.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we've played. Battlefront 2 is an absolute dumpster fire. Deck Splash is canceled after failing to meet its 100,000 downloads during its free week. Why your favorite indie game may not be getting a boxed edition. Bethesda blocks Skyrim Together online mod from being put on Steam. Developers say that Steam no longer allows links to uncensored patches for their games. Are video games bad for your kids? Not so much, experts now believe. Is there going to be a new Mario movie? We'll have our weekly community corner. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage. How are you?
Well, I'm nice and toasty watching the dumpster fire, you know, just with my popcorn, enjoying the pure shrine short.
Yeah, I had some popcorn earlier.
I should go get popcorn. Granted, probably not during the podcast because, too crunchy.
I was reading about a dumpster fire while watching a dumpster fire. Katie and I were watching Batman versus Superman today.
Oh, so another dumpster fire.
Yeah, we're going to see Justice League next week because it actually looks pretty decent, and they bought some goodwill with Wonder Woman. And Katie was like, "We should watch them. We've seen like this one. We've seen Man of Steel, and which was okay, not great, but okay, and Suicide Squad, which was okay if you're able to enjoy how bad it is. Like,
yeah, let's just put it this way." Everything I've seen of Suicide Squad, I'm put off by just how the Joker looks.
The Joker's not that bad, actually. He's a really small part of that movie. I mean, he's not great. He's nowhere near as good as Heath Ledger, but honestly, whoever will be. Except for maybe Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, but they're two completely different types of Joker.
Yeah.
But have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yes, I have.
I love that I put you off so much on that.
That was good. I should have expected that from you, but it's good. Anyway,
well, see, it was expected so much that it was unexpected.
So, Batman v Superman was the only one we hadn't watched, and I know the plot of the movie, and I was like, I can just fill you in on what happens. I haven't seen it, but I know what happens. And she's like, no, we should watch it. And we were watching it, and after 15 minutes, she was like, is it just me, or is this movie really bad? And I was like, no, it's really bad. And she's like, it must be really bad for me to notice how bad it is. And she starts pointing out all these things, and I'm like,
to be fair, I don't really know what happens in it outside of you are a serious threat and I'm going to take it down.
Yeah, the movie spends the first hour basically spinning its wheels and not doing anything. And then you have what would be the inciting event of any other movie. It takes place in an hour and 15 minutes. I paused the movie, and Katie was like, why are you pausing the movie? I was like, I just want to see what the timestamp is, because this is basically the inciting event for the whole film, and it took it an hour and 15 fucking minutes to get here.
Okay, I'm going to make a recommendation. I just want to make sure I have the right thing. Okay, if you want to see a good Batman versus Superman fight, The Dark Knight Returns. Particularly part 2, but watch the entire thing.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's an animated movie. Well, 2 movies, technically. Damn good fight.
Yeah.
Granted, it is an elderly Bruce Wayne, but I think that makes it even more poignant, you know?
Well, you kind of have that effect in Batman versus Superman.
But not nearly
Batman's
to the
been
degree.
Batmaning for nearly 30 years in that movie.
Well, let's put it this way. He doesn't look that old, but then again, he's also Hollywood, time scale.
Yeah, it does. I will say it has one of the best fight scenes I've seen in any modern mainstream movie. It's I don't know, a 2-minute action sequence with no cuts, and most modern action films will cut every punch or every other punch. The camera jumps around wildly, usually to either
the director has ADD.
Yeah, usually it's either to hide things, like you have actors who can't fight, so they use lots of little quick cuts and quick shots to hide it, or they're trying to, in some way, convey some sense of like action, flash, excitement, and it never looks as good as a fight scene that has very few or no cuts.
Yeah,
and it's like a
Tarantino
2-minute scene.
most well known for doing very long cuts of fight scenes? Or am I...
Yeah, Tarantino does that really well, particularly
remember, I'm not
in
a
Kill
movie
Bill.
guy, so...
Yeah, no, Kill Bill, there's at the end of Volume 1, with the big, like, ninja fight, there are very few cuts in that in that sequence, and it's like, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? And there's only a handful of cuts. So, good. Very good. If you start looking for that stuff, you'll find it everywhere. Watch a Marvel movie. Watch any action scene from any Marvel movie, and I will guarantee you that there will be more than a dozen cuts in even like a minute action scene. It's crazy. It can be so disorienting at times.
Well, I would say that you ruin movies for me, but I don't really watch them in the first place, so...
Yeah, anyone out there who watches movies, if you've never noticed it before, go back and watch The Avengers or literally any other Marvel movie, and you'll see. And the longer the movies have gone, or the more years have passed, the more they do it.
Well, also, Marvel movies tend to lean more on comedy than DC movies. Not saying DC movies are dry, but Marvel tends to be a lot more footloose with their comedy.
Yeah.
So
supposedly they've done a...
So them adding a lot of cuts can also be just filling in jokes as well into their sequences.
Yeah. Supposedly there have been... Well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about, like, genuinely every time someone will punch someone, or every couple of punches, you'll get a cut to a different angle of the punch. And it's disorienting. I'll link you a sequence.
Stop trying to hit me and hit me.
Yeah. So yeah, welcome to the movie portion of the podcast.
Where you go first.
Where I go first, yeah.
Or is it who's on first?
What's on second?
I don't know. Third base.
Oh, so games we played this week.
Yeah, and
what games did you play?
Well, here's one that you've been excited to hear me talk about. Spin
Yes.
Tires Mud Runner. I got a hold of a review copy of the updated version of Spin Tires. And that's pretty much what we're looking at here, is an updated version of Spin Tires, both in the good and the negative. So, what do you want me to focus on first? What they fixed or what's broken?
Start with the bad and let's move to the good.
Okay. Let's start off with the camera. Now, Spin Tires has always had a janky camera, and they've changed it in this, where it's even more janky.
How can it get worse unless you're just like literally staring at the ground?
Well, first of all, they don't have a proper orbital camera anymore. And it's funny you mentioned staring at the ground, by the way. I'll get to that.
Okay.
They have a lot more of a movement in that orbital, where it acts like it's on a rotating hinge. And then once it gets to the extreme, then it'll start orbiting. And it's fucking annoying trying to get a certain angle if you're trying to navigate a tight space. And also the camera is... I'm convinced that it's at a lower angle to be able to see further out, which for a racing game, that would be great. But Spin Tires moves closer to 5 than 150 miles an hour. So, be able to see far off in front of you instead of close to your bumper is actually a huge detriment. And it's just very, very odd. Granted, after a few hours, I started to get used to it, but there was still moments that it did odd things. Like, well, let's bring up what you said, looking straight down at the ground. Going over some of the bridges that has cover over it, not quite covered bridges, but steel bridges. You know what I'm talking about, right? With trusses around the side and above it. Yeah. I hit a bug where the camera would suddenly snap to looking straight down on my truck. And no, I'm not joking.
Is it at least a good-looking truck?
Well, the trucks are slightly better looking.
Oh, that's good.
There are some, if you pardon the term, muddy textures.
Hi-oh.
But Spin Towers is more of a technical game than a graphical game. I'm not saying the game's ugly, it's just more about the mechanics of the game. And let's talk about, how about the other camera angle? They added a first-person camera.
Oh, okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Explain.
functional, but it's very tacked on and it's very rushed. In that the HUD for the truck is pretty much the in-game HUD, just cropped down and put over the dashboard. Very slapdash. Feels like they put it together in 5 minutes. And whenever you bring up the advanced options, unless you're looking straight ahead, you don't even fucking see them because they're in the corner of the windshield, which is irritating. And for a game that is all about getting logs from point A to point B, you would think that, okay, I would have to at least be able to look back and see my trailer. Seems pretty important, right?
Yeah.
You can't.
Do the mirrors not work?
There's no mirrors. They're just placeholders. They're saying that they'll work on them and get them working before too long. That's what the developers are at least claiming right now. But right now, they're just static pieces of metal. And the field of view is, your rotational view is capped at 180 degrees. 90 degrees right, 90 degrees left. So you can't even look over your shoulder through the window in the back of the truck. So that makes first person outside of threading the needle on some maps kind of limited in use. That said,
basically,
you
can just use it to tool around.
Yeah, to be fair, I do like that they added it, and it's not as vomit-inducing as you would think. They have a stabilization on it, like you would naturally do if you're driving a truck down a rough road. Between the shocks and your natural body movement, you're not going to be you're not going to be like you're a bobblehead sitting on the dashboard.
I don't know. Have you ever driven some of those big trucks with the springy chairs?
Not the springy chairs, but I have done off-roading when I was little.
Okay.
So it feels very close to that. And to be fair, the springy chairs are a more modern invention, and these trucks are older.
That's fair.
Let's see. The other main things about this game is that the maps are pseudo reworks of the originals. There's some changes. Some of them don't have many changes, particularly Crossing, which is essentially the river. But the mechanics of the game that changed adds enough freshness to the game that I don't feel too bad about the rehashes, and it really depends on what they do post-launch support. Mud is a lot more, I guess squishy would be the proper term. Lighter trucks aren't able to just glide over the top of the mud now, they sink down into it. So the little Jeeps, for example, they have to really struggle to be able to get anywhere. And also, water is a severe hazard now. Water has this little thing called a current.
Oh, so it can actually drag your truck along now instead of just...
Yeah, especially the little trucks. Granted, even the big trucks that have a heavy load on them, you'll feel the river pushing you if you're in deep water. But the first time I went to the water, I was in the Jeep because the typical way I play is I get the little Jeep, the A whatever, and start exploring. So I came up to this rather quick-moving stream and thought, wow, the water looks really good. I am impressed with just how much they worked on how the water looks and make it look like it has a proper movement. Because in the original game, even moving rivers, looked very still. And, I went into the water, and then I noticed, the truck's acting a little, whoa, and the truck flipped over.
Yeah, before water, the only hazard about it was if you accidentally...
If it was too deep.
I mean, you couldn't see if you drove in too deep and couldn't get out.
Yeah, and they did add it where on the map it shows you water depth for water near you.
That's handy.
If you bring up the map, you'll see lines, and little dots are just shallow water, get enough to get your tires wet. The longer the line, the deeper the water is, which is a nice little addition. And that's really everything about this game. It's nice little additions, nice quality of life changes. The fact that they added multiplayer saving is nice.
Oh, thank God.
Granted, the caveat is that they did get rid, at least according to everyone, and I'm pretty sure I noticed this as well, permanent land deformation, as in going in between save states. So if I did a long map and but I broke it into two halves, the map essentially resets once I reload the game. Granted, I usually play in long sessions anyway, so that's not as big a deal breaker for me, but it's there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, to get the multiplayer saving, they probably had to cut down somewhere, or it may be a console consideration.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? Another little map tweak is they added essentially toll gates now, where trucks are able to take shortcuts if they're unloaded. So, you have your log trailer, but if you aren't loaded, you're able to essentially go through this block gate. And it usually is some sort of shortcut to be able to cut down time on going from the lumber mill or going from the drop-off back to the lumber mill to pick up another load. Which is, nice.
That makes sense. That's a nice quality of life thing, too. Because half the time when I was playing before,
it would take just as long to get back.
Jump to a garage. Yeah, I'd jump to a garage just to lessen my time to get back.
Yeah, they did make it so that you only could recall to the garage that's closest to you to kind of discourage that. Which I understand that. They made it so that some trucks, usually the little small ones like the Jeep, are permanent recallable. As in, they're recallable to anywhere on the map as long as you have a truck there. So let's say I take my, I have my logs I'm driving along, and I see a watchtower, which is the new version of the Black Tornado to unveil the map. And I see it's across this deep field, and I have to go through some rather shallow water, but it's going to be too much for me to take my logs. I could recall the Jeep to me, send the Jeep over, and uncover the map. A nice little quality of life change.
Yeah, that's handy.
And also, probably the biggest quality of life change is proper controller support. As in, you do not have to take your hands off the controller at all now. Including winching, including loading and unloading logs manually. It is all properly bound. Which before there was a couple things that weren't set up quite right. Granted, you could do a little bit of finagling and get it all on the controller, but it wasn't default. And the winch, there was no way to do that on the controller itself. You had to, if you were lucky and had something that had a trackpad like the DualShock 4, you could do it with that. But there was no way to do it with just an Xbox controller. Now you can. And it makes it a lot smoother. Granted, that's not to say that the game is easy at all, but it felt very familiar.
Yeah. I used to use my my flight stick actually to play because it was easier to go from that to the mouse back and forth because I'm lazy. I didn't want to pick my controller up and set it back down repeatedly. Well,
remember, I use a DualShock, so I have the touchpad directly on it.
That's true. I don't. I could have. Did I have my Steam controller
I don't think
last
so.
time I played? I don't think I had it when we played before. So I could use the Steam controller now. But, okay.
Let's see, what else? They do have a better tutorial system in the game.
That's good.
A dedicated tutorial system, and they also have challenge mode, where it's small maps. There's 9 of them. They're each designed around teaching a particular thing. Like the first one teaches you just basic navigation and how to hook and unhook one of the long trailers. But there's also additional objectives if you was to challenge yourself. Like, for example, the first one has 3... all of them have 3 stars. The first one is do the entire thing in first-person mode, which was once you hooked up the trailer, I should say. getting the trailer from its point of origin to the destination, you had to do that all in first-person mode. Do it while on the right side of the road, and don't damage the truck. And that was actually a fun challenge. And they're all pretty much like that, where the base challenge is teaching a particular skill. The second one is teaching hill climbing. The third one is the second one is teaching how to repair and refuel trucks. The third one is teaching proper hill climbing. And I'm rather impressed with the challenge mode. Granted, it's not something that would keep interest for longer than probably an hour or two, unless you really decide to go die hard and try to 3-star all the challenges, because some of them are damn tough. Particularly that hill climb, because that requires first-person mode as well. And the path they want you to take is something that would make a mountain goat say, whoa, let's talk about this.
let's slow down a minute, buddy.
But overall, I liked it. I'm not 100% sure it's worth the money. It's $30 naturally, and until the end of the month, it has a 50% loyalty discount, so it's $15 for anyone that owns the original Spin Tires. It is a good refinement, and I think the price tag is really going to justify itself if they continue to do post-launch support. They've already fixed one of the major bugs that I was having with it, where it would flicker back and forth between mouse and keyboard and controller, just the prompts. And that doesn't sound too bad, but when I was trying to detach the winch, I would hit the button to detach the winch, but because it was looking at the mouse and keyboard, hitting that would make it, look back at the controller, and it wouldn't detach the winch because I didn't hit it twice. But they fixed that, thankfully. So they are doing at least some post-launch support. It just depends on how much they continue doing that.
How much post-launch support did the original Spin Tires get?
They did get another map, bringing it up from 6 to 7 maps. And there is already mod tools out for runners, and there's quite a few modded maps out already. So there is that there already. They are talking about adding maps to the workshop, but no definite date on that. The workshop right now is just vehicles, but the fact that they have proper mod support in-game is nice, where you're able to download everything right away. It really, like I said, it depends on what they do in the long run, and that's why I'm a little hesitant to say, yes, buy this game right away, because, it all comes down to what they do, because, $15 is a bit hard to swallow for mostly quality of life improvements.
Whoops. I already bought it. And it's installed.
Oh,
bye now.
Well, I guess, all right, I guess this is the part where I start going through the ending spiel. Hang on, I wasn't at that part of the notes.
Now you and Katie can crash trucks together while I sleep.
Yeah, we were driving around in the old one, Katie and myself, partly to play together, but also to get a feel for what the old one did differently. And
yeah,
I think she'll enjoy the new one a lot more just because of the proper controller support.
Yeah, King goes to, unless he's running a fever. King's been sick. Surprise, surprise.
Wasn't it?
As long as he's not running a fever tomorrow. Pretty much. As long as he's not running a fever, he'll be going to music class in the morning, and I'll wake up with a cup of coffee and delivering some logs. And when stream night becomes a thing again, whenever my life evens out again, we'll be doing some Spin Tires, especially now that we can save, and we'll just use copious amounts of saving so that when the game inevitably crashes, we won't lose everything and swear.
Honestly, only time I had a crash was when I tabbed out the game, but that's kind of normal for Spin Tires.
Yeah, if you tap out for more than, 30 seconds, a minute, it crashes.
It wasn't that bad. It was just, I tabbed out a couple times, mostly to talk to Katie on Skype because she was pinging me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie's been talking to me. I made a friend.
She's got a Steam account. I told her to add you as a friend on Steam, and then you guys could chat that way as well, because half the time you're not checking Skype, but you'll respond almost always on Steam.
Well, I ended up just installing Skype on my phone.
Yeah, that works.
I
have Skype on my phone too.
That's one way to get around it, right?
Yeah, that works. You have been an asset to her, keeping her company at nighttime.
Poor Katie.
She likes it. She says you're weird, though. I was like, I know. It's fine.
Yes, and?
She's like, he's not as weird as you are, though. And I was like, yeah, I know.
Well, to be fair, you are a high bar.
That's very true. For weirdness, I'm a high bar.
Just wait till she catches me sleep deprived.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Thank you.
What that you're fucking weird?
No, the way you said it, that I'm a high bar. Thank you.
Yeah, on weirdness. But don't worry. Wait until she catches me sleep deprived, where I get a little punch drunk.
She was... Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you've seen that.
Today I don't remember what it was, but I was just like tired. And I was like making weird noises and stuff. And she was like, I'm going to tell Rage on you. And I was like, he knows. I do this all the time when we record stuff and hang out.
Yeah, mostly it's like, you involving talking.
All right. Is that all you have to say about Spin Tires?
I mean,
obviously
so.
You can.
My
thoughts can be summed up with, I just bought it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it really depends on if you value the quality of life achievement enhancements, because that's really where this is. That and a couple of mechanics changes. And there's a bunch of little things like if you bring up the advanced mode, it'll show you the amount of fuel in both your truck and any add-ons, as in the fuel physically in those add-ons. So you can see the fuel sloshing around.
Nice. Okay, one more quick question about this. Say that someone doesn't have Spin Tires at all. Would you recommend Mud Runners at its current price, or would you say, hold out a while and buy the original Spin Tires, which is $15 by default, and has been on sale for half or less than half of that before?
I think the enhancements and the quality of life changes on Mud Runner makes it worthwhile. I'm not sure if it's jump in at the $30 price tag for someone that's not sure about the game itself. But here's the fun part, is that I think the loyalty price would go in if you buy the original now. So you could do the original, see if you like it, refund it, and buy the new one.
Now, Rage, that might be considered abuse of Steam's refund policy. Let's not get ourselves in trouble here, because we all know that Valve listens to us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Gabe, where's Half-Life 3?
That would be a really good thing to do, actually, I think. Because then basically you could get it for $15.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would work like that, though. Because I already had the original Spin Tires, and this was a review code, so my price was a lot lower than $15.
Yeah. I still can't believe I didn't get a review copy for this. My Spin Tires review has
got
over 4,000 views.
I couldn't believe I got a review copy of it either.
I think I have the second most viewed Spin Tires review.
Well, my Spin Tires video isn't doing particularly well, but then again, Space Pirates and Zombies was doing particularly well, so I don't know. YouTube is weird anyway. I mean, one video will take off, then the others will just kind of sit there. Episode 88 is topped out at 74 views.
Okay, I have the number 3 Spin Tires review on. Oh wait, nope, that's Mud Runner. So yep, it's number 2 for the original Spin Tires. I have the number 2 review on YouTube. Ooh, I did something.
I'm reviewing. Yeah, but no, this is just odd. So who knows?
Yeah.
But then again, I also didn't get it on release. I got it about a week and a half late. So, it makes sense that I don't get a lot of views on it because, all the additional views are already taken up.
Yeah. I'll play it. Probably do a Mud Runner review.
And then, just eclipse my views. Then again, my videos aren't considered reviews, so.
Yeah. Cool. So what else you got?
All right, well, let's switch to something else. South Park's Phone Destroyer. This is a mobile game that they originally showed at E3, wasn't it? And I wanted to see what they did with it because I'm interested in South Park games. What can I say? This is essentially South Park's answer to Clash Royale.
Okay.
Only nowhere near as good.
Okay.
And you know my thoughts on Clash Royale, so that ought to say something right off the bat.
Yeah.
Okay. you are essentially the new kid. Pretty much the player character in all the South Park games. And all the kids are playing cowboys and Indians. All right.
Okay.
And there is a story to this game. Or at least there seems to be, but I can't get through it. Not for skill, but because of what they call the Great Play Wall of China. Every so often, Butter shows up as a Chinaman and forces you to play PvP. And PvP matches are a clusterfuck. All right. Well,
okay.
Well, there's a couple contributors to this. One is just the orientation of the playfield itself. It's played in landscape mode instead of portrait mode, so it's a little hard to tell the depth of where things are. Second of all, if you go to the screenshots and look at real-time PvP battles, you'll see pretty much how the matches look. A complete clusterfuck. But here's the thing that really makes it a lot worse, is that in Clash Royale, what happens whenever you see an enemy unit? They're a different color, right?
Yeah.
They aren't in this game.
Oh.
So the only way to really differentiate your units between the enemy units is the color of the health bar. And the health bars, at least on phones, are very small. And the only way to tell levels of units is the number at the beginning of the health bar, which is even fucking smaller. Are we seeing a problem here?
Yeah, in this screenshot, I don't see anything.
Well, this doesn't. This has the health bars disabled, but imagine, red, like stand over on the left. That's obviously enemy unit. Ike dressed as Gizmo. That's obviously enemy unit. Girl that I can't think of her name in front of Randy is obviously an enemy unit. Baby, because units will turn around to fight others. So it's hard to tell just by orientation, who's facing left and who's facing right. Because if, let's say you put down one of your tank classes, which there's 3 different classes in the game. There's tanks, which are big, beefy, a lot of HP, slow moving, not that much damage. They're meant to attract enemy units and to soak up damage. There's fighters, which are melee based, and there's ranged, which, care to guess? And units will turn around to try to fight something that's behind them, and that can make it so that, things that are fighting left and right may not particularly be a good way to tell if something's friendly or not. And there was more than once that I lost this big battle, and I realized I was losing the battle because everything was clumped up and health bars were over top of one another. And on top of that, certain units also have charged abilities. For example, one of your first units, Sheriff Cartman, has a charged ability where after a amount of time, he'll do an AoE, just take his guns out and shoot everything. Well, that icon covers up the health bars. It appears over his head on the battlefield.
Well, that's no good.
Yeah. And on top of all of this, it is actually very difficult to get cards in this fucking game. There are, let's see, you get a free pack every 4 hours, and you can build up to 2. So, pretty much 8 hours, and you get your 2 free packs, which they have, I think, 5 cards in them each.
Do they open instantly, or is it
they open instantly. You spend the time to get them, not to open them.
Okay.
Winning 3 PvP battles gets you a pack of cards, and you can do that once every few hours. If there's an event, getting a certain number of points in the event gets you a pack of cards, and oh wait, that's it. Unless you're buying with real money, of course.
I was gonna say, and then also you can buy, I assume.
Yeah. There are ways to buy individual cards, and the way the cards work is just like Clash Royale, where you get a number of cards and you bring their level up. But in order to level them up, you have to get these upgrade resources, and different themes of cards require different resources. So the Cowboys, for example, requires one set of resources that is obtained either just in packs, in this either the free daily store, which uses the free currency, the PvP store, or just buy them in the paid pack, which you do get a small trickle of the premium currency, but the premium currency, the paid packs are 1,000 some for the lowest. And you only get a handful of free currency if you during the win screen, assuming that you're lucky on that. So the way the rewards work is that you're shown 10 lockers and you get to pick 3, and it shows you, okay, this is the best stuff out of them, but you could get the upgrade resources or some currency, both the free and the premium. But it's usually not much. And you get to pay a little bit of more premium currency to unlock an extra locker, and then pay more currency to open up another one. But really only do that if there's something really good in it.
Okay.
This game, I would really enjoy it if I was able to just play the single player and be able to grind that out. Because a lot of it depends on getting that currency, getting that upgrade resources. But because you can't keep hitting the Great Play Wall of China, which requires you to go into the PvP mode, and every time, well, outside the first few, getting more and more PvP wins, and the fact that the PvP system is, well, they take the Hearthstone method where if everyone's overpowered, no one's overpowered. There's certain cards that are very, very powerful. And for example, you see Ike there, for example, as Gizmo.
I don't know who that is.
Kyle's little brother, the football kid.
I don't know who that is.
Well, you do know who Gizmo is?
Nope. I don't know anything about South Park. Except
Gizmo is Sci-Fi.
Oh. Then, no. I guess I don't know who Gizmo is. Let's see. Oh, that little guy.
Yeah. Okay. He quickly multiplies. Every few seconds, he'll split into a second copy. Then those copies split into 2 copies each. And they could quickly overwhelm someone. And he's high damage. And there's certain cards that do a buff to attack power for a short amount of time. So getting proper combos will just decimate you. And
I see.
It's it's that model where it feels very unbalanced, but it may just be the fact that PvP fights are such a clusterfuck anyway. It's tough for me to really tell or be able to formulate any strategy because it feels like just throw things at things. They did do an interesting thing in that this is a Clash Royale game that doesn't have towers. Instead, it is essentially the king, and the health bar is segmented, and it represents essentially the 3 towers that you would normally have in a Clash Royale game. And once a segment is depleted, it does an AoE knockback and damage. And for pretty much anything except for highly leveled highly level cards, and for tanks, just in general, it will kill them. So sometimes the best way is just to take the hit. But I gotta say that out of the probably 20 to 30 matches I played, only 1 or 2 felt really close. Every other one felt, just throwing everything at a person, and won or lost just by sheer numbers. It didn't feel like there was much strategy to it, which is a shame, really.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun. I mean, I'm not a South Park person, obviously, but like from a gameplay perspective, just listening to you talk, this sounds like pretty much any other mobile game.
This feels like a bad version of Clash Royale. Granted, they do have the single player to try to add something else to it, but the fact that they force you into this just clusterfuck of a PvP mode, takes away all the enjoyment, because I didn't really enjoy the PvP.
Right.
And it's kind of ironic that it's called Phone Destroyer, because I would say this would probably be a lot better on a tablet, just because you would have the extra space.
Yeah, most of these games are. just having a bigger screen area to play on.
Just the pure fact that the power up or the power activation icons are all on the playfield and block the view. And if you have several of them, for example, well, let's use Ike again, as Gizmo. He could just cover the entire field, because I played with him a couple of times because I got my ass handed to me once by someone doing the prepper combo, and I was able to pull it off halfway, but I was able to see a fucking thing. If they just made it so that it was all next to the cards, that would have been so much better.
Yeah, that would have been... Yeah. Or made it... Did you say that they had health numbers, or is it just a bar you can see for each of the characters?
It's just a bar. There's no health numbers outside your player character.
Okay.
Or at least that I recall. They do have the health numbers on the cards themselves. And as you level them up, those do upgrade. It's just a disappointment. Because it's an interesting idea. And the fact that, South Park could really throw a lot of different themes. And that is something that I did find interesting, is that the different themes at least seem to lean towards particular styles of gameplay. For example, the sci-fi theme based itself a lot around just sheer crowd control and overwhelming numbers. The cards seemed a little bit cheaper, but a lot squishier. There was a spell that was just, a freeze ray, for lack of that's actually what they called it. But it was just an AoE freeze. At least a couple of the different cards did some sort of poison attack. Either when first summoned or whenever they got their charge attack ready. So there's, if they could improve it, it wouldn't be a bad game. If you could get over the Great Play Wall of China.
I mean, that feels super South Park.
Yeah.
Right there. Which is kind of cute, but if it's really frustrating after a little bit, the joke stops being funny.
Well, it's frustrating once it hit 4. Because you're pseudo-punished for playing the PvP mode too much without putting in the premium currency. Because you only get the free pack if you get 3 wins. And then it goes on a timer. But if you put in the currency to refresh the timer, you could get another pack. So, and as you're getting wins, you're also going up the ranks, and you only go up. You can't go down ranks. So I have a feeling that there will be a point where you start hitting that sort of cap on your skill. And unless higher level, it starts to go down, you lose and you start going down ranks, but I didn't see any of that. And all the reviews were talking about hitting a certain rank and just hitting a stone wall. So that made me a little leery of playing the PvP mode too much anyway.
That makes sense.
Disappointment. But I do have to admit that I do like the fact that they were using the medium fairly well. There was more than once that the characters would call, as in, your phone would act like it's ringing with with an actual phone call.
Oh, that's nice. I like stuff like that.
And Kyle was saying, "Don't listen to Cartman. He's just using you." And you hear Cartman in the background. Kyle, who are you talking to? I did like that. It's just it's such a disappointment, because maybe it's just because I'm a gameplay guy.
Yeah, if I was into South Park, I'd probably like it, because I'm more of a themes guy. But alas, I am not.
Well, I do think you would like the humor. It's not overly South Park, for lack of a better term. It's not, outside of Butters is probably the most offensive, with the Great Play Wall of China. But, you have Randy showing up as Pocahontas. In different homages to various well-known sci-fi cowboy themes, that sort of thing. The fact that they started bringing in pirates and Cartman was calling bullshit. And I think it was Stan that said, well, pirates were kind of the same time frame, so they could have fought each other.
That sounds familiar, just like something that those conversations we used to have at school. Like, what are you doing? And so, well, they kind of went, right? So that's humorous.
Yeah, at first, I'm trying to remember what was the first pirate that showed up, because Cartman kind of let it go because it was sort of on theme, but then it just kind of slowly went further and further until you had the kid in the wheelchair, Timmy, show up, full pirate ship.
I know Timmy. Timmy's one of the few that I know.
And then they call you out on it. Dude, you just beat up a kid in a wheelchair. Oh. Yeah, it's a weird one. I'm enjoying the theme, but not the gameplay. Anyway.
My turn, yeah.
Because I think we're going to easily hit our time mark on this.
We're pretty much already there. Anyways, yeah, so continuing my playing old games that are like in my top list of all time.
Maybe you're old.
I played Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion this week. I also played Skyrim, and I'm kind of going to roll those together because I was playing Skyrim to get some comparisons in. Just to, see how well I was remembering. And it's also been a little bit since I played Skyrim because I haven't played it since we did it for Game Club. So...
Yeah, originally, I didn't care too much for Oblivion. I thought it was okay, but looking back on it, it's kind of the George Bush of Elder Scrolls now.
That is...
As in, I didn't really care for it at the time. I mean, it was okay, I guess, but now we got Skyrim, and it's like, maybe I was a little harsh. And they also had about the same, vocal abilities.
So I started, my first Elder Scrolls game was Morrowind. I've played several other games from the older PC days, like Elder Scrolls Arena and Daggerfall.
Yeah, see, I only played Morrowind onwards. Yeah. But honestly, the rate we're going, I'm not going to be playing the 6th one, which disappoints me.
But so, Morrowind was my introduction, and I really liked Morrowind for its environments and storytelling. But the mechanics in Morrowind were just ridiculous. It was very, very, very old school way of doing things. Like, you had hit chances on stuff. So, it's like I'm stabbing this thing with my sword, but because I failed my roll to hit it, then I'm not actually hitting it. And...
Yeah, Morrowind was more old school D&D with a 3D engine on it, but once you got past a certain point on your levels, it didn't matter. Yeah,
typically around level 10 or 12, you had high enough stats and everything that didn't matter as much, particularly the things that you were using the most, because then they also had their...
And of course, there's mods to fix that because
there's mods for everything. So Oblivion was the next one that I played, and I played this back on Xbox 360, and... It had problems even back then. The leveling system still wasn't great. It was a step up from Morrowind, but you basically had to min-max in order to get the proper character because of the way that the leveling system worked. You got points based on the skills that you used, and then when you actually leveled up, those gave you stat boosts. So if you weren't min-maxing and basically utilizing every level to get 5 points and whatever stats it were you were trying to increase, you were wasting points. You could sort of, by going to prison, if you were there for long enough, your stats would decrease, and you could use that to re-level up and sort of make up for it, but it was ridiculous, and it took a while to do. So,
also, what really made it a lot more punishing was just the level scaling in the game. They didn't handle it particularly well.
It was brutal in the beginning, and then once you got to the end game, everything was too easy. Aside from certain specific, quest enemies.
Yeah, mostly around the main story. There was a couple, I would call them gates because, they were gates, but that's not what I meant. If you went in, if you were too high level, they would be very brutal, but if you went in, level 1, it'd be just a pushover. Yeah.
So, obviously, I'm playing this with mods. And aside from, the obvious patches and bug fixes, both official and unofficial, because there's several official patches that you have to use in order for the unofficial ones to work, which I was surprised. I figured that they would all just be based off of whatever version is available on Steam. But there's actually
remember, this was released really before Steam was a big thing.
But the Steam version is just the 1.0 version. You have to download the most recent patch, which is 1.2 something.
I didn't even realize that. I hadn't messed
Yeah.
much with the Steam version.
Well, it's not. It's the Game of the Year Steam version is 1.1 something, and then they had a couple of patches after that, culminating in 1.2 whatever.
Well, this is Bethesda, so.
But
yeah.
anyways, so yeah, I've got all of the bug fixes, and then the only other mods I'm using one that fixes the leveling system. I think it's just called like Simple Leveler or something like that, and it changes the level scaling of all of the enemies because it gives you a stat point for every single thing that you level up. That way, it doesn't matter when your actual level goes up; it just gives you all those stat points, so you're not wasting anything as you level. And so it uncaps your level, and the stats still max out at the same. But by uncapping your original level, you can actually go higher than you could without glitching in the original game. But obviously, that makes you super OP, especially at the beginning, because I went with a mage character, and I started with like 85 intelligence and 80 willpower, which basically means I never run out of mana, especially with the starting spells. So I'm just running around like, and you get a fireball, and you get a fireball, everyone gets a fireball.
Bees!
And then I downloaded a mod for changing the actual level table, like, so that it makes it a lot more like Morrowind in the sense that, like, depending on what area you go to, there's going to be enemies there, and if you wander into an area that's too high a level, you'll get the shit kicked out of you. But you'll always see, like, rats and little scamps and stuff, which I like that, because in the original Oblivion, like, once you got to, like, level, 20 or so, you basically only ever saw minotaurs and bears in the wild. And it's like, well, what happened to everything else?
Yeah, one of my most memorable memories, there's a good one, of Morrowind was I wandered into a high-level area. I think it was around Red Mountain. And I got a golden saint to start chasing me. And it wouldn't let up. And that thing chased me for ages. Eventually, I got to a town, and the guards all jumped on it while I guided it around.
Morrowind stuff would follow you to the ends of the earth.
Which, with things like the Golden Saints, makes sense.
But you would have all enemies basically following you to the end of the earth. Maybe not all of them, but many of them.
Fucking cliff racers.
But, I mean, basically, I'm not really pursuing any storylines. I joined the Mages Guild just so I'd have a place to sleep. But...
Besides, you would give them all fireballs if they don't again.
But I'm not using any other mods. I thought about doing some visual mods, adding, like, I don't know, the Better Cities mod or whatever. But I might do that at some point, but I really just wanted to play the game as close as I remembered it as possible. Just with less crashes and physics.
There's some very fun mods. It's a very impressive content mods. I love toying around with Midas Magic.
I haven't used that one.
Well, since you're a mage character, you need to look into it because it greatly increases the number of spells that you can have. Let's put it this way. How do you feel about a golem made of cheese?
Is he effective in combat?
Yes.
Then I'm in.
And I believe there's a watermelon one as well.
A golem made out of watermelon?
Yeah.
Please tell me that that he throws watermelons at his enemies.
Unfortunately not. Let's see. There's polymorph spells. There's poison clouds.
Well, I think there was a polymorph spell originally. Oh, wait, no, that's just Wabbajack.
Yeah, the Wabbajack! Huh? Didn't see that one coming, huh?
No. Hang on a second. Katie just walked in here. Yes, dear?
Hi, Katie.
So, in comparing Oblivion to Skyrim, I very quickly noticed some things that I always kind of felt like in Skyrim, but it's just been a while since I'd played Oblivion and realized how much better the world is in Oblivion than Skyrim, particularly when you're doing quests, because not every, but many quests in Skyrim, particularly the ones that aren't main quest lines or related to any of the guilds, and honestly, some of the guild quests are like this, but you go to an area, kill everything, and come back. That is probably 90% of the quests in Skyrim. And
Yeah, then in Oblivion, you have things like the painting quest.
yeah, going into the painting, and it's hard to say which one has a better just like dynamic world, because there's lots of little things to stumble upon in Skyrim, and there are plenty of things to stumble upon in Oblivion as well. So I'm not sure.
Well, I think Skyrim would probably trump it just because of technology.
Yeah, that's fair. But when it comes to quest design and writing, surprisingly, I think Oblivion wins hands down. It's super hard to beat the house party for the
The house party.
yeah, for the
Granted, I didn't get to play the Thieves Guild in Skyrim because it bugged on me. I just couldn't get the fucking quest to trigger no matter what I tried. And
I mean,
at this point, I was already getting frustrated with the game.
well,
So it's like, fine, be that way.
comparing the Thieves Guild to Skyrim and Oblivion takes it hands down, because maybe 3/4 of the missions for the Thieves Guild in Skyrim consist of going to a dungeon, killing everything, and coming back.
And the Dark Brotherhood as well.
Yeah, which it kind of makes a little more sense for the Dark Brotherhood, but I mean,
Well,
Oblivion had the whole.
I was just saying that the Dark Brotherhood's quest line, from what I researched on the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, because, like I said, it was triggering for me, the Dark Brotherhood in Oblivion was just so much better.
It is, because
it had a proper storyline for one.
Yeah, well, in Oblivion, you get all of the assassination targets. In Skyrim, aside from the overall, like, Night Mother thing going on with it, it's go to dungeon, kill things, come back. Go to dungeon, kill. The Mages Guild in Skyrim had a few interesting things going on with it, but still.
Oh, the ring with the Mages Guild. Do you remember that quest?
In Oblivion, where you go into the well and the ring. Yeah. Yep, the ring over encumbers you.
Yeah, unless you're either like an orc, which orc in a Mages Guild, really, or you do the proper spells to be able to counter it.
Or you could just stash all your gear, go get it, and come back if you know it's
skinny
there.
dipping.
I mean, after the first time I played through, obviously I knew it was there, but yeah, Oblivion just has so much better writing and so much more interesting side quests and main quests. Plus, they have Patrick Stewart and Sean Bean. It's hard to beat those guys.
Yeah, but to be fair, that's pretty much all their voice acting budget.
Well, there's like Steve from over at the desk. You know, he does all the guards and half the orcs, and
I do have to say that I absolutely love Shea Gorath in the Shivering Isles.
Yeah, I do too.
I didn't get to play the Skyrim expansion, so I can't compare one to the other, but Shivering Isles is up there for best DLC.
Yeah. There's just the spell system in Oblivion is better as well, because
the fact that you can actually make spells.
You have more spells and you can create your own custom spells. I do prefer the enchanting system from Skyrim. It's a lot more fluid, and it's just much easier to sort your gear and things when you're making stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the apparel's system, like your armor and everything, is not as robust. I think the reason that everyone likes Skyrim so much is because just as they've gone, the games have gotten more simple in terms of like
easier
management.
to get into.
It's easier to get into, yeah. And everyone loves Skyrim because it's super fluid, very easy to get into, very pretty. I mean, although Oblivion doesn't look half bad.
But it's not pretty.
Oblivion is showing its age, particularly with like faces and whenever the models directly interact with each other in ways other than just swinging swords and axes at each other's faces. But the scenery and the towns and the creature designs still look pretty decent. I've even reduced the quality of some of the stuff using a couple of performance mods because I've got it installed on my laptop just for convenience.
Yeah, but the thing is that we've went over this before. We are not core gamers, or we're the outliers. We're not the general gamer. So saying that we could accept Oblivion still doesn't really be much for the average gamer.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, when I was having this discussion about Freelancer last week, which Freelancer's a bit older, But Freelancer really feels like it has shown its age. And in some ways, particularly when it comes to design decisions, Oblivion is showing its age. But, I mean, Oblivion could still pass for a relatively modern, say, indie game or something like that. Like, I still feel like it's pretty acceptable even with its mainstream counterparts. Compared to AAA games, obviously it's nowhere.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of first-person fantasy these days.
Yeah, that's true.
There's some, but not much.
Yeah.
So you really can't compare that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could,
but I like it. I've not been disappointed. And I mean, Oblivion was my number 2 favorite game of all time after Freelancer, and it's my favorite of the Elder Scrolls series. It's still a really.
Are you saying what I think you're saying eventually?
What, that Oblivion is my number 1 game of all time?
Well, I wasn't going for that, but Game Club.
Do you want to do Oblivion for Game Club?
We can put it on the list. I'm hesitant to go back to it because I have grown as a gamer, so I may see a lot more faults to it.
Oh yeah, there's still faults. I'm not trying to ignore the faults.
It could be an interesting one because I definitely think I would enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah, when it comes to
that's not saying much when it came to Skyrim.
When it comes to the technical side, and the controls, they're dated. It feels dated. The menus handle all right though, and I'm not running any menu enhancement or improvement mods. Yeah, and the menus handle better than Skyrim's do, so you've got that going for you.
The menus were still a little rough, but nowhere near as what Skyrim. Skyrim just has so much wasted space.
Yeah.
That they showed off the whole 3D model thing, and they used it, twice? For actual gameplay?
Yeah. You had to rotate. I think the only time
It was a shield for one.
The other one was like you could get those dragon claws, and you had to rotate them to find the combination to unlock the doors.
That was very, very interesting.
Super. But yeah, Oblivion still holds up in my view, compared to how I remember it. I'm trying to think if there's anything that was like really stood out as bad to me that I want to mention. Yeah.
If the actors are not Sean Bean or Patrick Stewart, which Patrick Stewart hardly even fucking counts.
Yeah, he's in the beginning of the game. He does the opening narration, and then like in the first 30 minutes,
close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
Yeah. And then
which with any other actor that would sound so cheesy, but Patrick fucking Stewart.
Patrick Stewart can do it, yeah. And then Sean Bean's in there quite a bit more, because he's one of the main characters. Goes throughout, but
yeah, I'm just seeing if there's any other. Well, let's put it this way. Patrick Stewart has one credit. Sean Bean has one credit. Terrence Stamp has a credit. Just a single credit. But then you get down to, let's see, one person, female Red Guards, as in plural.
Please tell me someone's name is, what did I say, Stan? Or Steve?
I don't see a Steve. But let's see, this one guy has, it has to be a half dozen named characters. And you definitely, starts like, okay, these guys are all sounding the same.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest weakness of Oblivion. I wonder if there's a mod to improve the voice acting.
There are.
Breath.
There are. There's several mods. You have to be careful, though, because there's a lot of mods that include other mods that cause issues if you try to install them together.
Once again, Bethesda game.
Yeah, that's the main reason that I didn't use the Better Cities mods, because it actually conflicted with a couple of the other mods that I was using, and I was like, you know what? I just want to play, so I'm just going to uninstall this mod and deal with it some other time. But probably other than what you just said, the biggest issue with the game, which so far the unofficial patches have fixed, are just the amount of physics glitches and issues that the base game had.
But Bethesda has a history of buggy games, and Oblivion had probably the funniest ones. Everybody remembers Skyrim's dragons flying backwards. Oblivion had an item dupe glitch that was exceptionally easy to do.
It had several.
And, yeah, well, the one with the bow was the one I always did.
Yeah.
And I started just filling up places with watermelons.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Or cheese.
Or
because
plates.
Cheese for everyone!
Plates or orbs, those little Oblivion orbs. I made it on one of my playthroughs on the Xbox 360 version. I made the town of Bruma. You just couldn't go to it because it would save all that shit lying around. And I dropped, I don't know, thousands of the Oblivion orbs, which glow and roll around and have sound effects. So the engine is trying to render 1,000 glowing, rolling, sound effect making orbs. And the game would just tank. And if you stayed in there for too long, it would crash. I assume it would have some sort of memory overflow error.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it. Matter of fact, I think it was the original patch that Shivering Owls came out with, was that they had a memory leak where it was counting certain NPCs in the Shivering Owls. Granted, I am running off of a just random knowledge from what was this, a decade-old game now?
11 years. It came out in 2006.
Well, with Shivering Owls, it would be a decade now.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Where it would track certain NPCs, but wouldn't take them off the save file if they disappeared or were killed. So there were people having their saves corrupt after they hit the 120 hour mark, which sounds like a lot, but it isn't for a Bethesda open world game, or at least the old school ones.
Yeah. My original playthrough of Oblivion, the only playthrough that I 100%ed, had over 1,000 hours in it.
I don't think I ever 100%ed it. I would focus on a particular thing.
Yeah. I've got the achievement on... Or the Oblivion is one of the only games that I've got 1,000 gamer score in from Xbox 360 or Microsoft gamer score when I gave a shit about it. And I just wanted that to have as like a completionist badge.
Well, I can't say I don't have a gamer score because I do have a gamer score because I had to get the games for Windows Live and that ran off the same system. But I don't have anything that's close. Oh, wait. I may have that for the old Batman Arkham Asylum game. I'm not sure about that one. I know I got all the Riddler trophies, and that's a big chunk of it.
Yeah. But, so yeah, those are the two Elder Scrolls games that I played this week. Not all the games that I played, but that was the bulk of my playtime this week, was Oblivion, and then checking Skyrim a little bit, like, just for comparisons.
It's like, okay... Does this suck as much as I think it? Oh, it does.
I mean, I still like Skyrim, but after having a very recent direct comparison, I like Skyrim a little less. Also,
or maybe it's just I'm rubbing off on you and you're becoming cynical like me. You're becoming jaded.
Also, it doesn't help that Bethesda, with their Creation Club, like that doesn't exist for Oblivion.
Yeah,
and hopefully
I'm just waiting for the
re-release.
Re-release.
But yeah. I think I'm going to restart.
Because after Skyrim is on every single system, they're going to go back and do it for Oblivion.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go do some mod messing now that I've played with it a whole bunch this week and kind of got my feeling for it. Restart and get a proper mod set that I really want with like some extra stuff in it.
I highly suggest Midas Magic. Granted, getting the spells can be a pain in the ass, but they're usually very powerful, so that's the balance.
Right.
And there's also a mod for the mod that adds additional spells to Midas Magic, building off that same system. If memory serves correct.
Cool.
It's been a while since I worked with Oblivion.
Yeah,
but we're definitely putting that in the game club list. It's not going to be anytime soon, I don't think, because we have things to do.
Yeah. Sounds good, though. Maybe sometime in the first half of next year, maybe. Something like April.
And we also need to start working on our list for the winter sale.
Yeah. Anyways, on to the other games that I played this week. I beat Space Plan. If you don't remember, Space Plan is a idle clicker type game, but it
Full
does
of potatoes.
Yes, full of potatoes. But it does some very interesting and different things compared to other clicker games that I've played. It has a genuine story that you advance, and some interesting little secrets that you can find. Towards the end of the game, it had some real gameplay mechanics. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it. Like, so you had to drop these little potato scanners onto a planet, and you had to hit specific points. And so you had to kind of figure out how to aim and hit the points, and it's got a good sense of humor. And the ending, wow, that was a really good ending of the story. Like, it's a clicker game that actually ends. And I really appreciate that.
Thing.
I really appreciate that.
I may have to put this on my list to play if you don't spoil it right now.
No, I'm not going to spoil it. It had a really interesting ending that I wish that I could go back. Oh, well, I'm sure I could. Someone's probably recorded. I could go watch it on YouTube. But I'd like to go back and watch it again and just see if there's some hidden stuff in there. It does get a little bit sort of psychedelic if you have light sensitivity, or potentially you get seizures. I would caution you against this game. It really does get kind of trippy and strobe lighty there at the end.
You know, that potato probe in the trailer does.
Yeah, it does. It does. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right.
Different color eye, but that's about it.
But how long did I play it for total? 6.6 hours according to Steam.
Yeah.
So
so let's call that 7.
Yeah, it took me 7 hours to get through it.
That's not bad for $3.
No, honestly,
I'll probably use it as a stuffer for whenever I go crazy on the winter sale.
Yeah, honestly, if I'd relied a little bit more on it, just like grabbing, or the buildup of resources as opposed to just clicking myself, I wouldn't have been playing for that long.
As the trailer was ending, I was about to click off, and it said, it's a clicker. It has an ending. It's out now.
Yeah.
Just on text. I have it muted.
Yeah, that's good. I hadn't noticed that because I hadn't watched that trailer all the way through. Also, it's got a great soundtrack that evolves as you go through the game. So, it's good. It does have a couple of moments that are very dark, but in general, it's a very lighthearted, funny game that pokes fun at several sci-fi things. Several tropes, and it's just in general a good time. It's good. I mean, normally it's $3. I think when I bought it, it was on sale for like $2 or something like that. But it's good. I'm actually pretty seriously considering getting the soundtrack. I haven't bought a game soundtrack in years. The last one I bought was the Halo soundtrack, or like the Halo trilogy soundtrack or whatever. But I may actually buy this soundtrack. It was really, really soothing at times, and then also really, really upbeat and energizing at times as well. It's good. It's all techno-y sort of stuff. Electronica, I think, is the... It's not techno. I think electronica is the proper genre. But it's good. Good stuff. Finally, the last game that I played this week was Siege Ship. And this is a mobile game. It's a text-based... It's a free-to-play, text-based story rogue... That's not really roguelite game. There's no ads in it, which is nice, I think.
That's a bonus right from the start.
Yeah, and the games can take most of them go pretty quickly. You can play... The longest run I've had has been like 10 or 11 minutes. And what it is...
that quickly, huh?
And what it is that you are an AI in charge of the siege ship for humanity. There's been some sort of unnamed tragedy. The Earth is dead. All humans are gone. You have the last surviving humans.
Insert political joke here.
You have the last surviving humans on your ship. And your job is to find a suitable planet to be their new habitat. And basically, it's resource management, and you're trying to find the best planet you can and preventing your ship or everyone in it from dying. And as you go along, there are little scenarios that pop up, and it'll be like, oh, this thing happened. Your guidance computer caught it too late, and this asteroid's going to hit your ship. You can do this maneuver to try and reduce the damage, or use this part of the ship as a shield to protect other parts. And the more damage your systems take, you've got scanner systems, and then basically resources to group the other things together. And as the scanner systems get damaged, it becomes harder and harder to scan planets and find resources without using your probes, which you only have a limited amount of. And then as your other resources get damaged, the landing computer on the ship, the construction robots, the actual colonists, and then your scientific and cultural databases, like the more that those get damaged, the worse your colony is going to do when you land. So you're really trying to balance your resources, and it is somewhat random. As you go, you can upgrade your different systems based on like data that you collect, or you can find random events that will provide you upgrades for your ship, or will give you repairs or a bit of a buffer in some way. So it starts out super random, and as the longer you go, as long as you don't take too much damage, you start getting a string of much more suitable planets. And then basically it just comes down to like weighing your risk reward. Like, okay, have I damaged my ship so much that everyone's going to, like, I'm going to crash land and everyone's going to die, or we're not going to be able to have this planet, or can I keep going? And it's got quite a number of scenario outcomes. They range from really shitty outcomes, like the worst, like everyone dies and your mission fails. Or you can wind up as a slave species to a superior alien race. That's probably
that sounds bad.
That's the worst one I found, aside from just everyone dies. Like, I just had a really bad run, and I ran out of probes, and all of my atmospheric scanners were broken, and most of my colonists were dead. And I was just like, I just have to put it down. So I landed a ship on a planet, and there's primary stats that you can see, and then there's secondary stats that you can only find by using probes, or when you actually land your ship and, explore the planet. And there was an alien race there, and they were only in the Iron Age, but because so many of my colonists had died and I had lost so many of my materials and my scientific database and stuff, my society regressed to a Neolithic society, and the aliens in the Iron Age captured all of my people and used them as a slave race.
So, in other words, a lot of brain damage.
Yeah, pretty much. There's also really good endings. Like, if you manage to balance everything properly, find a few boosts along the way, or just get really lucky with a really great planet that's, for lack of a better term, Earth-like, or maybe that is the best term, then you can wind up with a society which is superluminal, or ascendant, or you can just wind up with like a utopia. Like, there's one that was like, oh, you kept everyone enough like scientific and cultural data and enough colonists alive, and everything was good enough that you wound up with a planet where everyone banded together and formed an egalitarian society.
And there was a lot of fucking.
Yeah. There's also like in between states, like excuse me, if you just get sort of an average run, you'll get, well, everyone survived, but your colony wound up as a corrupt democracy, similar to 21st century Earth. And yes, that's what it says. Or you wind up with a society where everyone values spirituality more than anything else, because like you lost a bunch of your scientific database, but you picked a really good planet to land on. So it's like, yeah, everyone is content with their spirituality, like, I don't know, I guess like the equivalent of nirvana or something. But, it's a medieval society. So
there's, in other words, hope you don't need another seed ship.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different scenarios like you can come up with lots of different variations. There's still new stuff that I'm finding, and I've done something like 20 runs at this point.
It's actually really impressive for a fully free game without any ads in it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a really good game. Right now, I'm trying to just go as long as I can, and just see what happens. Because I did a whole bunch of, like, my first run, I was like, I'm just going to do the best that I can. And then otherwise, after that, I've tried to do specific things. Like, I've had goals for each run. Like, the one run, I just landed on the very first planet that I found. That was a disaster. Your first planet's almost always really bad. And, like, in that run, my first planet had a toxic atmosphere, high gravity, no water, low resources,
In other words, not ideal.
And it had poisonous plants, deadly animals, and deadly alien ruins. And it was like my society, like, I lost so many people that they couldn't create like a really big colony, and they wound up like a medieval level society that was trapped inside of this super advanced hermetically sealed dome that had been created by the first colonists. And it was like your citizens are trapped in this dome until one day everything fails because, you know, they couldn't repair it because they had regressed.
Or they turn out like that one species in Star Trek where they act stupid and just steal a bunch of technology.
Yes, I'm trying to think. What is that? Be like things
Baku.
that go.
It's broken.
Um,
And the reason why I remember that species so much is that there was a kid that was, what's the politically correct term for it? Special?
sure.
That looked so much like that species. Only without the prosthetics, of course. That it kind of stuck out of my mind. And he would pull the same thing. He would lure people into, because he wasn't dumb, but he was slow. And he was also a dick.
The worst.
Yeah. So he'd get someone to feel bad for him, and then he would, grab something or, just punch him.
Fancy.
Yeah.
But it's a good game. I mean, this is the game that I've talked about the most, aside from Oblivion/Skyrim.
Yeah.
And it is just a free-to-play mobile game that wound up in my recommended list from Google. It's great. I want to give somebody some money for it. I should see if they have a website. Give us some money. It's definitely worth the money. I played it for a couple of hours total. Just I've done a bunch of runs. You get scored as well on each of your runs, so you're trying to beat your high score. Which I've gotten some runs that I feel like are better than others, and it's like, why is this such a low score? I don't quite. I mean, he breaks it down for you, but I don't quite understand why it values some of.
Just developer, feeling one way over the other, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Run. Arctica's alien forests stretch away beneath a pale blue sky. The colonists live in high-tech cities under airtight domes on top of the planet-wide ice sheet. They live happy and fulfilled lives under the guidance of selfless elected officials. In the first city stands a monument to the 118 colonists who died during the first settlement and the seed ship that the AI guided.
Truly a sci-fi game, then.
I've got some really shitty ones, too. Here we go. Enslaved by natives. This is my worst. 1,760. Terra Nova's alien. This was so sad because this planet was like perfect, but I'd had so much shit go wrong. Terra Nova's alien forests stretch away beneath a blue sky. The ruins of the colony are overgrown with alien plants and overrun by alien animals. The colonists' descendants live on as slaves of the intelligent natives, but they have lost all. I had ones where I had like people become slave lords, emperors, priest societies. There's a lot of variety. This is a really good free game. I'd buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
Anyways, that's all the games that I played this week. I suppose it is time to move on.
Yeah, speaking of things we won't buy for $1.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy for any amount of money. Let's talk about
Here we go. The dumpster fire.
The Battlefront 2 dumpster fire. The shitstorm.
Holy shit.
This made me almost as sad this week as reading political news.
Well, I haven't seen you go on a political rant in a while.
I've retweeted some political stuff. I've made a few political comments. Actually, political news is somewhat looking up, what with Democrats taking lots of House seats in Virginia and the Miller
EU
investigation.
Combated their military, or is combating their military research. So, hey, you got to give Trump something. He's passing legislation, just not in the United States.
Yeah. I'm all for that, actually. I think I'm all for reducing the United States military, and if the United States is still having to play world police, which there's no guarantee we won't still try and do that afterwards, but,
at least we won't be the only ones.
If other sovereign nations, the EU's, what would that be, a commonwealth?
A union?
A union? Whatever. If they, it's good for them to create their own standing army, like to
Yeah, but
combine
we're off
everything.
topic already.
Yeah.
I think that's a new record.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I've been talking
boy.
for a minute, so I'll let you start this while I rest my voice and drink some water.
Yeah, this... Well, we knew that this was not going to end up well with just the progression system being kind of unveiled with the beta, where it was all based around loot boxes, and there was this uprising, and EA said, okay, well, tune things. Never mind the fact that beta these days is a stress test and not a beta. So I will give EA the benefit on saying that there's not really time to change things. That said, this shouldn't be the way things were to begin with. Yeah, just so many things have come out about this game, and there's a lot of outrage. Where do we even start?
Well, let's start with... So the initial outcry, or the initial...
loot boxes?
People getting pissed off was the loot boxes and the pay-to-win system. And we didn't know, because during the, I'm making air quotes here, beta, we didn't know exactly how much things were going to cost because they didn't have the economy or the prices or whatever set to what they were going to be. So when people started getting a look at what the actual cost of things were going to be in-game, they discovered that it was going to take 40 hours if you didn't spend any money at all to unlock some of the principal, like, main series characters from Star Wars.
Only characters like Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, they were originally 60,000 credits, which someone worked out. We've got a link in the show notes that goes to all this stuff. Someone worked out that it would take you roughly 40 hours of gameplay.
And that's saving every solitary credit. And this isn't counting one-off achievements and that sort of thing. This is just literally saving every single credit for this one solitary goal. That is absurd.
Yep. And, that's just for Darth Vader. You'd have to do that again for Luke Skywalker, which was one of the other 60,000 credit characters.
Wait, what character? I mean, it's a locked character, so he can't be that important, right?
Luke Skydude and Darth Vato. My dad used to always say that to me when I was a kid. I'd be like, no, that's not how you say it, Dad.
What, Duke?
Oh. But anyways,
Duke Skystroller?
There were other characters cost less. Leia, Chewie, Darth Maul.
The protagonist from the single player was also on the lower end of things.
Yeah. So that's...
Which I can't remember their name.
So that started a massive clusterfuck on forums, Reddit, other places on the internet, with basically people saying, this is bullshit, I'm paying $60 for this game, and it's going to take me 40 hours to get my favorite character. Because, Darth Vader is probably the most favorited... Darth Vader or maybe Boba Fett.
I would say probably Darth Maul, because I've seen for pure power, because Darth Maul has some abilities that just wipe the floor with people. But we saw that back in E3 where, all the shots were just Darth Maul just wiping face.
Right. But, Darth Vader's one of the most popular characters from Star Wars, so, he's saying, like, it's going to take me 40 hours to get my favorite character, this is bullshit. And someone, was it their head PR person or a PR person from EA?
It was the EA PR account on Reddit. And I'll read the full thing, because this has turned into the highest downvoted comment on Reddit, period, bar none, by a huge margin, by the way. It's over 600,000 now, close to 700,000 last time I looked. Matter of fact, let's go check to see what that count number is, because this ought to be fun. This EA community team is at 680,000 in the negative, but also 81 gold. So I'm not sure if that's people being sarcastic or supporting them or being utter dipshits or what. Anyway, and I won't do it with this mocking voice. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. Do you wish to comment on that right away?
I mean, okay, pride and accomplishment, sure. There's a lot of that goes into unlocking things in games. No problem.
40 hours?
But 40 hours is exploitative.
Honestly, 40 hours is completionist level of focus. That's doing all the challenges, all the sub stuff. That's not unlocking one hero or villain in this case. Oh, okay. As for cost, we selected initial values based on data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking at average per player craft earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course, attainable by gameplay. Well, to be fair, it is attainable by gameplay. It's just a shitload of gameplay.
Yes, he is correct in saying you can attain them via gameplay.
Yeah, they are technically correct. We appreciate the candid feedback. Sorry. And the passion the community has put forth. Oh boy. I wonder if they're regretting that word. Around the current topics here on Reddit, our forums, and across numerous social media outlets. Our team will continue to make changes and monitor community feedback and update everyone as soon as often as we can. It's just... it sounds so smug, doesn't it? And that's not even me trying to make it smug, you know?
Yeah. No, that's so shitty. Where was it that they called players armchair developers?
That was on their Twitter account, and it was quickly deleted, but... Yeah, it's... let's see if there's... this has an archive. This is Matt Everett, which is one of the developers for Battlefront 2, saying the armchair developers of the internet. And they're... What's really frustrating me about a lot of this is that that's the community manager, by the way. I wanted to go double check to make sure who he was. That's the community manager. Oh boy, he should get fired, huh? But there's a focus on the outrage itself and not the cause of it. Particularly some of the more far left gaming sites, as in the crazier ones, I should say, are focusing on the outliers, the people that are so pissed off that they're being stupid. And that's frustrating as hell, because it turns into this narrative of gamers are entitled. And we've seen this over and over and over again. And you're not going to see any change when that becomes the prevalent story about this. So if you're pissed off, be pissed off, but don't do personal attacks and don't do death threats against particular developers on Twitter.
Yeah.
Try to be at least a little rational.
Do what I did. Call them an asshole and say you're not going to buy any of their games.
Well, I would say that, but I've been busy not buying their games. And also, you should be observing Commandment 1 anyway.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't pre-order. So speaking of not pre-ordering, that's the second bit to this. So after all of this backlash, and after all of this and people being like, what? That's bullshit. I'm not going to spend extra money, which I don't know how you didn't know you'd have to spend extra money, but whatever. Like, even for, like, the average gamer, I feel like the average gamer should know that. That's been the trend this year. I get not knowing, like, how much time it would take to unlock it.
Maybe it's mean of me, but I'm falling more and more onto the George Carlin side of things. Just think how stupid the average person is. And then I realize that half of them are even dumber than that.
Fair play. But, people
yes,
are
there are smart people. And I also follow on that the K side of things, yes, a person could be smart, but people are dumb, panicky animals.
Yeah. But, so people have been going and getting refunds on their pre-orders and have swamped and bogged down their refund system. Some people have said that they are no longer allowed to just go request a refund. They have to actually talk to someone in customer service.
That's
Some people have said that that's
true.
not true.
It's a weird thing depending on the version of Battlefront you're getting to begin with, and also the state of the purchase. So there's a link in the show notes that does a full breakdown of that, but it's kind of people noticing that Origin's refund system is a little shitty to begin with. Not that they're being malicious on this, and the fact that their customer service is just swamped. Which, good on them being swamped, but they shouldn't be swamped because they shouldn't have fucking pre-ordered in the first place.
Indeed. If only they listened to our show and followed our command, they wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah. And now we're going to wear out our hand because it's banking time for a lot of people.
Yeah. So, EA has responded, and they lowered the price of all of their heroes by, was it 75%?
Yeah, 75%, bringing the marquee heroes down to what the original, Princess Leia isn't a secondary character. She's still a main character, but, bringing them down to about that price level.
Right.
But...
What's 75% of 40 hours? 30? Yeah, 30 hours.
Yeah, 30 hours.
So now it only takes 10 hours to unlock Darth Vader.
Yeah, something around 60 hours for everything. All the heroes. And remember this, is that there's going to be a bunch of free DLC. And what does that free DLC add? Heroes. And you better believe that there's going to be a grind for those heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hopefully, if you're playing enough Battlefront, like the good little peons that you are, you're going to have enough credits to be able to buy them upright. If not, well, get ready for the grind all over again. Yep. Can you tell I'm not happy with this?
Oh, nobody's happy with this.
EA sales numbers.
Yeah.
Well, not the stockholders, because they've been selling the stock like crazy.
Have they?
You didn't see the... I didn't put in the show notes because it didn't seem like that big a topic, but people have been shortchanging the EA stock, and the price went down.
Didn't know that.
Mostly due to speculation on the sales numbers of Battlefront 2. I mean, it's not a huge dip, but let's put it this way. It's already recovering, but it went from 113 this morning, and it's back up to 112. It dropped down to 111.
That's not really very much of a change.
Yeah, I'm trying to hang on. Let me get a 5-day total. The 5-day total, it's down a couple bucks, but remember, it went from 114 to at November 8th, 4 p.m. And by November 9th, 10 a.m., it was down 11. Down to 111. So a $3 change overnight.
I mean,
that's a pretty significant drop off, but it's pretty much recovered its price, and it's not that big a variation.
Yeah, I mean that is a decent little dip, but I mean, someone like a day trader who's paying real close attention could have made some money off of that, but in general, that's not really a change.
Yeah, unless you have thousands and thousands of stock, it's not that big a deal. I mean, even the 1 month time frame, yes, it's down from a peak around actually Halloween, but that's probably the financial, if memory serves me, and it's down down from 119 to right now it's 112. So even then, that's not a huge dip.
Yeah. The other thing that they reduced beyond just the hero prices was whenever you complete the story mode, you got like a big credit bonus they dropped that down 75% as well. So
Of course.
you originally got 20,000 credits for beating the story. You now only get 5,000 credits for beating the story.
Well,
And
originally
that's
it
enough
was...
to unlock whatever the protagonist's name is. I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
But you could spend that on her if
Yeah,
you
Shooty
wanted.
McShootface.
But dropping that down really sucks because that was, that's a
Well,
big
you had a
chunk out of the
choice.
way. Yeah. If they'd still given you 20,000 credits, you could have instantly gotten Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker in. Can't do that now.
Yeah, but see, that would be a sense of accomplishment. See what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
But I think the reason why they give you credits instead of just unlocking the hero directly or give it as a second option is to actually hope that people waste those credits on loot crates or just buy a different hero.
Yeah.
Because if they wanted well, first of all, they give it as a specialized crate. So, yeah, they're kind of just getting people used to crates to begin with. I'm sure you're looking at this game and seeing all the psychological tricks, aren't you?
Uh-huh. Although they haven't really tried to hide them.
Yeah, true. Or they're that inept. Can you imagine if they weren't?
I don't think it's ineptitude. I think it's just not giving a shit. They're pushing to see what they can get away with.
Well, that, and where else are you going to go to get a Star Wars game? They have exclusive rights to PC games, and PC and console, don't they?
Yeah, I think they have the exclusive rights to the Star Wars franchise, period.
Well, I'm not sure about mobile. I hadn't checked, but I wanted to kind of cover my bases there.
I'm pretty sure they own... They do the
it's
mobile games, too.
But it's kind of galling to see this happen literally weeks after they canceled the single-player focused visceral Star Wars game. Because it makes you wonder just how they treat that, particularly with this other news story we have in our show notes that isn't Star Wars related directly, but them wanting to basically monetize everything.
Yep. Also, EA does have... It looks like the Lego Star Wars games that are on mobile aren't owned by EA.
All right, I wasn't sure, so...
But the other ones are.
But so much of this is so slimy. Well, I made the comment that this entire news story went up like a pile of oily rags. And, yeah, it's made me cough and gag and wheeze a little bit. And it's created an effective smoke screen for Need for Speed.
Yes, it has, which we didn't put any Need for Speed stuff on there, but I can tell you about it because I watched Angry Joe's 20-minute video.
Yeah, I've read a couple of reviews, and it seems bad.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, not basically, literally the entire game is loot boxes. Well, no, they're not loot boxes, they're cards. Something cards. But, I mean, they're effectively...
They're card packs.
Yeah, they're card packs. You get all of your car upgrades, all of your car cosmetics, and all of everything from these card packs. And you get one for every career mode race that you win, and then obviously to get the most of them, you go buy them. You can spend the regular in-game credits to unlock a card pack. I forget what the costs were. But not only do you have to unlock the things through the card packs, anything that's cosmetic, you also have to buy with in-game the in-game currency. So you unlock a thing with the card pack, then it unlocks it for you to purchase from the store, or from your garage or whatever. So you have to double buy. It's ridiculous. It's so bad. That takes every bit of anything that's fun or interesting or enjoyable out of those games. Out of any card game.
It's just... What the hell are they thinking? Well, outside of... we're not making all the money.
Yeah, Angry Joe was like, this game was probably looking to be like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, on my scale. It's got a really cheesy story that's funny
he does,
at times.
Rate kind of low.
Yeah.
Well, low by video game standards, I should say. It's more on the movie standards.
He gave Call of Duty World War II a 6 because it was... Yeah. But he was like, this is like a 5 or a 6, but he rated it 2 out of 10 because of the microtransaction bullshit. He was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I quit doing this. It's getting a 2 out of 10 for this microtransaction bullshit. Anyone who's watching this right now, if you trust what I say about games, don't go buy it. Just stop buying it.
Damn.
And he said that he was considering going back and changing his review for Call of Duty World War II and knocking it down to like a 2 or 3 out of 10 for the same reason.
Just pure microtransactions or the egregious nature of them?
Both.
There was another article that was going around earlier today talking about how loot boxes and microtransactions are changing how reviews are done. And I've definitely noticed it even on my side of things where certain games I get a review code for, occasionally I'll get something that adds some currency, and I typically don't do those. Well, first of all, usually those are some sort of MMO, and that requires a lot of work. Not that that's kept me off of some games before. I mean, look at the number of hours I put in Space Pirates and Zombies 2. But it also really upsets the balance. You don't get the new player experience. You get an accelerated experience.
Yeah, I think I saw that article too. Is it on our news topic list, or did we just happen to independently see the same article? I think
we independently saw it.
Okay. Yeah, because I think it was posted on Reddit in the gaming subreddit. Because I remember reading a bunch of back and forth discussion on that about how, like, these review sites, some people are saying, like, yeah, if they've got microtransactions, they have to talk about them because it affects the game. And other people are like, no, the microtransactions won't matter in X amount of time. And if you buy the game later, it won't factor into things. And
how would it not factor into things? Because that microtransaction's always going to be there. It's not like they're going to turn it off one day.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that one, but I wasn't about to jump into the middle of a Reddit discussion like that.
Discussion. You sound a little sarcastic when you use that word.
Yeah. A Reddit argument. A Reddit waste of time.
I'm more leaning... I'm not even just talking about bringing up microtransactions in general, but I'm talking about the new player experience when reviewers are given very powerful accounts or accounts that have a bunch of currency put onto them that doesn't really reflect the new player experience, because that really changes things. Can you imagine being a reviewer and getting Battlefront 2 that has everything unlocked? I mean, that is a massive power increase, particularly with how Battlefront 2 handles their power-ups, because some of those are fucking stupid.
And I'm sure Battlefront 2 is awesome if you have everything unlocked, because then you don't have to deal with any of that shit, and you've got all the best stuff.
Yeah, you only have to play for 60-ish hours to get there.
Yeah.
Which, I'm sure that there's some people that see that as, some sort of end goal and uses that as their, this is the amount of time I want to put into this. But I just look at them and I'm baffled.
Yeah. Most people's view from, my very small sample size of reading comments on Reddit and websites are, the view is, just ignore the microtransactions. Just buy games that look good to you and ignore the microtransactions. And maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, when this started to slowly creep in to games, you could do that for the most part. But at this stage, you can't do that.
Well, first of all, the microtransaction system, the loot box system, the card pack system, whatever you want to use, it's built around whales. It's built already around most people either ignoring it altogether or putting in a very small amount of money. And to those who don't put in and are the minnows using their terms for it, or at least from the mobile market, you become the fodder for the whales. As a matter of fact, they should have called people that don't put money in plankton.
Plankton, yeah.
Because that's exactly what you are. You are feeding the whales. You are the gameplay experience. So voting with your wallet doesn't work here unless you're not buying the game outright.
And even then, it might not be enough, because the model is built around a certain small percentage of players propping up the whole thing.
And it makes me wonder just how far can this bubble go, because it seems unsustainable.
Yeah, this is a bubble that will burst. It won't happen overnight. It most likely won't happen tomorrow. But I think that we're seeing the beginnings of the end.
We're seeing the beginnings of the second great game crash.
Yeah, for people
I'll be shocked if we don't. If this is somehow sustainable, but I really don't see that there's that many whales out there, particularly as war games pile onto this system and go whale hunting. Not everyone could turn into Japan. And I use that as the whale hunting metaphor, by the way. It's not, you can't hunt all the whales for scientific research, and sarcasm quotes there, and expect whales to stick around.
Yeah. Jim Sterling, the current authority on all things microtransaction and loot box related, in one of his more recent videos, it wasn't a Jimquisition. He's doing a lot more
turning players into payers.
It might have been in that one. I think it was in one of his other videos though that he's doing a lot more like commentary type stuff, industry commentary. He was talking about like noticing like the downfall of things like this and bubble bursting. And this was 2 or 3 weeks ago when Shadow of War was the current, I don't know, dumpster fire of the week.
Fire, yeah.
And he was saying that he figured that this was what I said, the beginning of the end, and you were looking at probably 2 to 3 years before this collapses in on itself. Because, you have to have time for all of the big players to put all their pieces on the table.
Yeah, I think once the games that are in pre-production right now, the AAA games, because it's usually for most games a 2 to 3 year cycle, thereabouts. Yeah. Unless it's Madden, that they just update the roster and put another layer of shine on thing. Once those games start coming out and we start seeing all. Well, I shouldn't say all, because that's unfair. Most of the AAA games having some sort of loot box system or some sort of egregious microtransaction system. I think that's going to be the beginning of not the beginning of the end, but kind of the crest. The peak right before that giant fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
I don't like predicting these things, and I really hope I'm wrong. But without some outside force, the games industry has shown that they're just too greedy to say no. And I brought up this other article where where EA was talking about wanting to monetize literally everything. The title of it, Live Services plus Subscriptions equals Uncapped Monetization. I mean, this just tells you it right there.
Yeah, and basically, what they do in this article is throw shade at companies like Hulu and Netflix for offering just a straight subscription and you get access to all their content. And they're talking about having other ways to monetize the people who subscribe to their service, which is, the
DLC, the microtransactions. Essentially, EA Access is going to be a means to an end for more microtransactions. Is the way I read this.
Yeah, I also read it that way.
And that made EA Access go from a pretty good deal to, I'm not touching it.
Yeah. Because I love the idea of EA Access, pay a subscription fee, get access to a library of games, and as long as you pay the fee, you can have access to all the games. That's a great thing, especially as we shift to a larger and larger digital-only world where, we've talked about that a bunch before too, and we're headed that direction at some point or another. That's where we'll be. Is mostly
unless
to all
we
digital.
Just get net neutrality down our throats.
Yeah.
Well, that's another kettle of fish that we probably should talk about at some point.
Yeah.
Around Thanksgiving is going to be kind of the tipping point for that, so maybe early December.
Yep. I've been calling and sending faxes and emails to my representatives every day. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but I'm not going down without a fight.
Well, my representatives are all in Trump's pocket, so you know how that's going to feel.
Yeah.
Well, at least our chairman of the FCC has an oversized coffee cup, so he's wacky. Woo!
Oh, laughter. It's the best medicine. But anyways, yeah, EA
well,
is
unless you're diabetic, then it's insulin.
Fair play. But yeah, EA is basically just a bag of dicks right now.
Yeah, and you're kind of seeing this other article talking about this and how the EA Access program is always the base game and none of the expansions. And it makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because they still want you to buy that stuff.
Yeah, they want you to buy the expansions to a game that you do not own.
Yep. Speaking of EA games, though, and Origin and Access, I don't expect to get it, but I requested a refund for Mass Effect Andromeda.
Well, you should have done that before, but then again, I don't really care for Andromeda.
Yeah, I mean,
Based on
I liked
everything
it.
I've seen, but
I like my experience, but just like, I don't know, it felt like a small form of protest. And in my thing, it was like,
well, you're hoping that the poor overburdened representative just clicks through.
That would be great. But yeah, it was like you can't request an automated refund. You have to contact customer support for a refund at this time. So I did it in my email. I was like, your company's business practices sicken me, and I don't want to support you anymore. I want my money back for this game, and I won't be buying any more games from you. I said it a little bit more politely than that, like a little bit more diplomatically, but basically it's what my email said.
Oh.
And I don't, like I said, I don't expect to get a review. I bought Mass Effect, 5 months ago? So, and I've played it for like 30 hours. So I doubt I'll get a refund, but felt good.
Yeah, well, pretty much because they've quarantined all their recent stuff to Origin, I don't have to worry about it too much. I don't feel too bad buying their older stuff because, it's saying, hey, this old stuff is pretty damn good.
Yeah. All of this talk about Battlefront made me want to play Battlefront, so I installed Battlefront 2.
There's the classic version.
Classic. And I'm going to play that this week.
Am I thinking some co-op campaign? Can you do that?
I don't... Well, we could definitely do it using like Evolve or Hamachi or Ranger.
Well, I meant, was it possible? Because I never messed with it.
I think so. I think you could do... Oh, I don't know if you could do like a System Link co-op campaign. You could do split screen. We can look though. We can check it out. I installed it.
I definitely wouldn't want to put it on YouTube because that's a copyright nightmare.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm scrolling through my purchase history in Steam trying to find the last EA game, but all the community market sales kind of muck up my...
Probably the last EA game I bought was Sims 3.
Well, I found Battlefront 2. The Sims... I'm torn on how the Sims turned out, but then again, that's just me being upset with how they treated Maxis. I did put the tweet out earlier, and I want your opinion on it. Do you think we're going to see DICE on the corpse pile in the next few years?
Ooh, that's hard to say.
Because they did have Battlefield 1, didn't they? It's the same division. I'll be perfectly honest. I lose track of the EA divisions because there's so many.
Let's see what DICE. They did Battlefield 1, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. They've done all the Star Wars Battlefront stuff.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst didn't sell that well, did it?
No, it didn't. They did Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Battlefield Bad Company. No, DICE, I doubt it. DICE has got a lot of big hits on their list.
Yeah, but that didn't say Maxis.
Yeah, but these are much more commercially successful games.
What, you're saying that The Sims and its 20,000 expansions aren't commercially successful?
No, that's not what I'm saying, but they have more commercially successful games. I don't know. No one's safe from EA.
Especially, what was it, Respawn?
That EA just bought?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, so Titanfall 3 is going to be properly mucked up now.
That's interesting to me because the guys who made Titanfall broke off from EA. Or Respawn Entertainment, the guys who founded it, broke off from EA in like 2000.
See, we get away and they just pull us back in. I imagine it's mostly because we're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
Doing it for all the goddamn money. Okay.
But yeah, microtransactions, they're turning into sand. They're coarse, and it gets everywhere.
I knew you were gonna make that joke. I knew it as soon as you said sand. It fits though. It fits. Shitty Star Wars things.
No.
I mean, that wasn't great, but that wasn't the worst thing. Okie dokie.
Well, at least we weren't expecting EA to be the chosen one, at least, right?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, I just hope gamers are able to keep the high ground. Not fall into the narrative of, well, we're all a bunch of dicks because we're threatening the developers and we're a bunch of Armchair developers that think we're no better. Hey, EA, fuck you.
All right.
He's not heavy. He's my brother.
Moving on to our next news topic. This one I didn't know anything about. Splash canceled after failing to meet 100,000 downloads during their free week.
Yeah, this was something that's been, well, it's obviously it was a free week, but it was there was an announcement a couple of days before they started, and I did have, or I should say, I do have the access to the alpha version of it. Still, they haven't revoked that yet, but they were trying to gauge the amount of interest that Splash had, which Splash was essentially a combination of Tony Hawk and Splatoon, where it was a team-based game where as you perform tricks and build up a combo meter, it fills up your combo meter more and more, and hitting certain milestones in that meter causes a explosion of paint once that meter runs out, or once that combo runs out, I should say. The higher your combo count, the bigger the splash. So think of it, like I said, Splatoon beats Tony Hawk. It's an interesting idea, and they decided to try to gauge the amount of interest this game would have after working on it for a couple of years. This is the same developers, by the way, that made Surgeon Simulator, or I Am Bread. So I think they were expecting their previous games to kind of carry this without really doing any promotion, and just let the game sites say, oh yeah, you remember Surgeon Simulator? Well, their new game is having a free week. No sites really did that. There was a mention here or there, and that was about it. And in order to keep the game in development, there had to be 100,000 downloads, which that's a hell of a lot, especially for an alpha version.
Yeah, that's a lot, even if the game had, been a fully released title. Like, that's a lot of downloads and active users. Yeah,
which I did a bit of poking on Steam Spy, and if their numbers are correct, they came up just short of 2/3 of that, somewhere in the 60,000 range, plus or minus a little bit of variance. Because this was a separate entry, so I was able to see that. So they didn't do poorly, but they never had very sustainable numbers. Their overall player count was always, sub 200 for the most part. That's concurrent players. But their main counter was the overall just downloads. And yes, it is foolish to do it like this, and especially to set such a high number, but I don't think it's wrong for them to cancel after seeing that there's not that much interest. At the same time, they didn't really advertise this. They were counting on... They were being lazy, it seemed like. I never saw anything outside of a couple articles in the very beginning of this event, and it was kind of just mentions. And that was it. I mean, the fact that you didn't know about it, and you follow game news quite closely, shows a bit of a failing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had, like I said, I hadn't heard of this until you, put it in the news topics and then told me about it. So they did not do a very good job advertising this.
Yeah, honestly, if they wanted to try to save this, which maybe this is them trying to save face, just show that maybe this doesn't have legs to stand on or wheels to stand on or whatever. They kind of set it up to fail because 100,000 is such a high number.
Yeah. And also, like you said, I don't blame them for doing this. I think it's good to have goals that you stick to, and, like they realize, they don't have the support or following that they thought that they needed. But I do think 100,000 was a pretty high target. I mean, lots of indie games don't get 50,000, downloads. And the fact that they got that many with practically no advertising, that might have been a better target to set. But, ultimately it's their decision. I don't think they did anything wrong.
Yeah, I'm trying to find something. Hang on. I would say Surgeon Simulator is probably their better known game. Granted, this isn't exactly a good indicator because I know Surgeon Simulator has been at least in a couple of Humble Bundles, but Surgeon Simulator actually has a lot lower numbers on it. That would explain that. Yeah, I'm trying to find their player number or their owner numbers on Steam Spy. Steam Spy is fighting me the entire way. Let's see. So it's just not giving me the proper entry. Let's keep it. Okay. Let's use the power of Google, the Oracle.
That's how you do it.
All right. So that's what was throwing me off. Surgeon Simulator, they updated the thing to give a free deck splash board, and it was showing, that. Let's see. So they did do some advertising, but Surgeon Simulator itself, after being in several Humble Bundles that I know of, is sitting at 1.7 million. That's after several Humble Bundles, though. So, yeah. Do you see where I'm a little weirded out by their numbers? Let's see. I Am Bread is at just around around 600,000. And that's also after at least one Humble Bundle. So I'm thinking that they are seeing their post-Humble Bundle numbers and are maybe getting some too big for the britches. Yeah. Maybe that's just me being an armchair developer. Is that going to be the title for our show?
It might be. We'll have to see if anything more appropriate or interesting happens, but that's probably a good solid title. Armchair developers.
Yeah, it's just I'm trying to go back far enough, but let's put it this way. There's some huge spikes whenever I Am Bread goes down to the sub $2 range. So, that's not a good indicator as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, if you go to some of their other stuff, Worlds Apart, which was released in May. Yes, I know. I'm doing numbers. I'm on my number mood. Worlds Apart is a MMO shooter sandbox game. So, that's flavor of the month, right?
Yeah.
Is it in early access? I would have double checked that before. No, this is fully released, free to play, and it has 35,000 people. Do you think they may be kind of a one hit, or I guess 2-hit wonder? And they're kind of basing their numbers off of things that are highly inflated off of Humble Bundles and off of some rather extreme sales.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just too early to tell.
Yeah,
I think that they
looks like their final player count was right around 65,000. So just under the 2/3 mark, with a plus or minus of about 7,800. So,
Yeah, I think most likely they're just overestimated their popularity or something like that.
Yeah. There's something going on, or they were counting too much on word of mouth, and I didn't think that they would have to hold a bunch of really social events, because there was never really any player counts on this. I want to bring up the Steam charts because I just want to make sure that my player counts were correct. All-time peak was 446, and that quickly dropped off. Actually, it looks like it peaked at 446 for like a minute, and then it dropped down to around the 150, 200. Pretty much stayed around that. So it had players. It's just that's very borderline on just how many players you need for at least a good matchmaking service. Depending on where they are, of course.
Right?
You're falling asleep, aren't you? Or you're coloring.
No. I'm just listening.
Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth?
You've wandered off into the woods a bit. All right. Well, let's do some more indie game talk. Why your favorite indie game may not be getting a boxed edition. So this was an interesting little article. I don't know how much there is to really say about it, but
yeah, this is
because
mostly talking about the ESRB.
Right. They have made a change. So I read this article earlier. Let's see if I can get this right. So normally it costs $10,000 to get an ESRB rating. They had some rules that allowed you to get rated if you're a digital only game at a discount. I think it was $7,000 or maybe it was just $3,000. And then after you got rated, even if you had a physical edition made later, you didn't have to pay an additional fee or get re-rated or anything. But now they have changed it to where that if you want to have your rating applied to a physical copy of a game, even if you've previously been rated for a digital edition, you have to pay another $3,000 fee.
And that doesn't sound like a lot at first, but remember, some of these are very small indie titles, and this also cuts off limited run indie titles. And this article actually highlights a site that was doing limited runs of niche indie titles, and it's made them reconsider a lot of their pickups. And that's where the kind of the downside of this comes. Is that, does it hurt, Stardew Valley becoming a physical indie title? No. But it may hurt that one-man development team. Well, actually, that's not a good example because Stardew Valley is pretty much a one-man development team, but it hurts the smaller scale indie games.
It hurts your average indie games. Stardew Valley I would consider that something like an exceptional indie game, just with the sort of success that it found. But your average indie game has many, many fewer downloads or many fewer purchases overall, which makes doing some sort of limited run special edition type thing much more difficult because it'll eat up a lot of the costs or eat up a lot of your profit if you're only doing 100 games. Let's see if you do.
And where this really comes down to is it's being a requirement from all three console manufacturers to have a physical copy to even be on their platform in the first place, isn't it? To get an ESRB rating. So it doesn't really affect us exactly, but for others, for the console players, that's where it's hitting them.
Right.
And it's a double dipping of fees because going from digital to physical, usually there's no change. Unless it's adding patches, which that shouldn't constitute a major difference.
No, not unless it's like a massive update, but that's not a patch. That's an expansion or air quotes DLC type stuff.
Game of the Year edition.
Yeah.
Or whatever flavor you want to call that.
Yeah, but to my knowledge, most expansions and DLC content maintain the original rating as the base game.
Yeah, unless there's tits.
Yeah, unless there's tits. But, I mean, this doesn't really affect bigger developers at all because, $3,000 is not a lot if you've got,
all
hundreds, millions and millions of dollars in your development budget. I mean, that's, the weekly salary of a dev. Like 1 week of their salary. Or maybe a couple of devs if it's, really shitty. Like they're not making the money. So, that's not a lot to them. There are some people who have been, crying foul, like industry corruption and collusion. I don't know. I don't know. They might have reasons outside of, let's hurt the indie industry, help the AAA industry out. I mean, they are tied to these AAA, these big developers pretty closely. So I can't completely eliminate that.
Yeah, which is why I shouldn't be shocked that they didn't want to touch loot boxes.
Yeah. So I can't completely disregard that, but at the same time, I don't think there's enough evidence or enough anything really that's beyond speculation to say why that they did it. They just made a change.
Yeah, which honestly doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't see why they would do this. But then again, I'm not an industry insider.
Yeah.
We've already said that we're outliers to begin with, so maybe there's something that makes a lot more sense to someone that's more in tune with the industry.
Yeah.
Just not seeing it here.
Yep.
Or they're trying to maybe this is some sort of gatekeeping where they're trying to stem the tides because there's maybe some sort of flood coming in from Steam. Which I realize we already said that PC doesn't affect them, but maybe some of these indie devs that are getting a boost off Steam are trying to make the jump to consoles.
Yeah, maybe. There was another article that I saw today that was something like all the games released in
2005.
2017.
From 2005 to 2015, I believe. Is the same amount of games that's been released this year.
Yeah, something like that.
It's just absurd. So many games.
Steam Direct. Opening the floodgates even more than effectively Greenlight did.
Yeah, which there has been some games that come through that's good. It's just, it's so hard to find them.
Yep. Gotta weed out a lot of shit.
Yeah, gotta waller in the sewers quite a bit to find that diamond.
Yeah.
And boy, did I get a southern accent there for a moment.
Gotta waller around, find that diamond.
I reckon.
Ooh,
yep.
Boy, I tell you what.
Our foreign listeners are probably like, what the fuck?
What is wrong with you guys? What happened?
We lost probably, 2/3 of our IQ there for a moment?
Yeah. Let me tell you what, I come by it honest.
Shall we move swiftly along?
Yep. Talking about Steam Direct is an excellent, completely accidental segue, which I just ruined, to talk about our next news topic. Developers are saying that Steam no longer allows you to link to uncensored patches.
You're skipping things.
Did I skip one? Oh, whoops, I scrolled too far. Fuck.
Yeah, you've gone too far.
Bethesda blocks Skyrim Together Online mod from being on Steam. It's still Steam related, so it's fine.
Yeah, don't worry. You won't edit any of that.
Yeah. I did too much editing last week to fix our Skype issues.
Hey, but that was all your fault, for once.
Don't I always get blamed?
Yes, but sometimes it's not your fault. You just get blamed.
Oh, okay. Fair
this
enough.
time, the blame is squarely on you, justifiably so. Anyway, Bethesda. Well, let's get out the stick and start beating on Bethesda again. Even though I'm hesitant to blame them completely because this could be just them having to protect their IP. But that's not saying that they're not a bunch of dicks, because they are. But copyright does make it so that you have to be dicks.
Yeah,
So
you have to defend your copyright.
Yeah. So I am giving a slight benefit of the doubt, but then we contacted Bethesda. This is a statement from the modders that were making Skyrim Together, which, it says it right on the tin. It's a co-op mod for Skyrim.
Yep.
We contacted Bethesda regarding releasing the mod via the Steam store as a mod of Skyrim. We aren't allowed to release the mod as a game, obviously. So we had to seek permission from Bethesda to do this. We got a response from Bethesda that says that this was unable to be done, and we were not supplied a reason, however. This won't stop development. We're currently working on an alternate system, because this was going to use the Steam matchmaking service to be able to connect directly and take some load off of their services. But yeah, that's why I was kind of leaning towards them just defending their IP, but then you start getting to some things where people are kind of tinfoil hatting, saying that maybe the Creator Club is going to do a co-op mod, which I'm not 100% certain on that.
Yeah, my thought that it was, even if partly it was required, to defend their copyright, I think that they're not. Part of it is that they don't want any competition for Elder Scrolls Online, because Skyrim is a better game than Elder Scrolls Online. So co-op Skyrim would be better than Elder Scrolls Online.
That's a low bar.
Yeah, I also like Elder Scrolls Online, but for very different reasons. It feels that MMO fix for me from time to time. But anyways, yeah, I don't think that they want any competition for that, because it's already struggles enough, and it's been improving. The recent expansions and updates have garnered better player numbers.
Haven't they just went back to Morrowind recently?
Yeah, that was one of the recent expansions. It might have been the most recent one, actually.
But yeah, that's why I'm kind of hesitant to say that, they are a bunch of dicks. Don't get me wrong, I still think Bethesda's a bunch of dicks. But I have encountered this often enough to know that there's sometimes a reason for it outside of just dickiness. Yeah. And I think I'm arousing Jared by saying dick too much.
Dicks. All the dicks.
It's just, it's a shitty system that they have to protect themselves like this. Assuming that is that, and not them just, being jackasses. Oh, great. Now I'm up to asses. That's even worse for Jared.
Dick ass. Ass dick. Anyways, yeah.
Don't you mean dick butt?
Yes. And. Anyways, yeah. I'm not.
Yeah, this is just a small article really saying that, yes, it probably delaying this mod as they have to redo some stuff. But it's... I think I understand why. Or at least I hope I understand why.
Yeah. I'm not too tinfoil hatty, not super duper.
Yeah, not like this article, because this article went full tinfoil.
Again, not enough information. They just said no. I mean, they're not, as far as I know, they're not required to give a reason. So, it's just all speculation. It's probably a combination. It probably was a good idea to, for copyright purposes, say no. And also it had a little added benefit of knocking down potential competition for Elder Scrolls Online. And also maybe there's going to be something through the Creation Club.
Can you imagine how expensive that would be?
What, to build that?
No, to buy it.
Oh, I mean, I assume it would be
$50, $60.
Yeah, it would be pretty close to the price of another full game. I'd expect at least $30.
I mean, if you base it off of the price that they have for swords,
then it'd be like $1,000.
Yeah, they look at EA and it's like, shit, how do we make that money? I know, multiplayer. I mean, to be fair, a co-op has been called for in the Elder Scrolls series since at least Morrowind. And there's been attempts at mods doing some sort of co-op, and it's always been a little janky. We're just getting to the point now where there's enough coding talent out there, just free reign, and there's enough pre-made assets to be able to do it without rebuilding the entire game. And maybe Skyrim is accessible enough on the modding side of things that also makes it a lot more accessible to a lot more realistic, I should say. So maybe it's a combination of all of that, but yeah, it sucks.
Indeed. Well, other things that suck. That news article, what I read 5 minutes ago.
You may want to reread that.
Developers say Steam no longer allows links to uncensored patches for their games.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a twofold thing. Attacking the booby games, but also going after games that are censored in particular regions.
Okay, I get the first one. Why the second one?
Well, let's pick a game almost at random. How about Wolfenstein?
Okay.
Wolfenstein in Germany, because games aren't considered art there, have to be censored with any Nazi symbolism, and Hitler loses his mustache for some reason. Steam may be looking at this and think, oh crap, the German government may come after us if we allow developers to directly link patches. Granted, probably not the best of examples, because I don't think that there's an uncensored patch available from the developer for this, but it's the same basic idea that they're concerned that this may trigger some sort of response from the government because they're allowing direct linking to an uncensored patch to get around censorship laws in that territory.
Okay, that makes sense.
And Steam is trying to just cover their ass. So I do understand this. Granted, this also is catching all the booby games. And it's going to make it a little tougher for the kids to find the anime boobies. Or at least the uncensored ones. And maybe this is going to stem the tide of all the booby games a bit. But let's be honest.
Yeah, it won't. They'll either, I don't know, say, put an outside link. I don't know exactly how.
Well, there's already a bunch of
go to the
curators. There's already a bunch of curators that are building around, what games have censorship and what they're including uncensored patches now.
Yeah.
So it's not inconceivable to just have curators cover this.
Yeah. Or people could just go check the game's website or
consult the Oracle.
Yeah, consult the Oracle and get an answer that way. So I doubt it'll really do anything.
Yeah, I think this is more just Steam trying to cover their own asses, really. And maybe, if the BB games get caught in this as well. Oh.
Yeah, they would be removing their liability or reducing their liability. Like, hey, we told them not to do it. We don't allow it. They're doing it anyways. It's not on us.
Yeah, probably trying to go for the safe harbor law, even though that more impacts the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. I'm sure that there's probably that sort of provision in other laws as well, and that's what they're going for.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I wasn't super upset about it,
I'm not upset about it.
But
it's more of an annoyance, particularly because how Puritan and also hypocritical Steam is with their enforcement of nudity. Or anti-nudity, I guess I should say. Yeah. Because if you're a big enough game, you could still have the boobies, you could still have the dicks. Otherwise, you wouldn't have GTA 4 or really any of the Witcher series.
Yeah.
But, this cuts out all the visual novels.
Yeah, the most annoying thing is that a lot of visual novels, when they do the censored stuff to be on Steam, a lot of times things get changed in the game anyways. You lose bits of story content or things are really character growth,
because sometimes it's not just pure titillation. There's a bit of character growth in there as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's other places to buy these visual novels as well, and then you don't have to worry about it. A lot of times you get them straight from the developer website. There's a few sites that exist to just curate these games for you anyway, so you can buy them straight from there.
Yeah, I imagine this isn't going to curtail censorship or uncensorship patches. It's just going to make it a little harder to find them.
Yeah. I'm starting to buy more games outside of Steam anyway, so I might just stop buying these games on Steam and just buy them straight from the developer site. I don't know. Steam's super convenient, but...
Well, Steam for me, it already generates a little bit of income anyway.
Yeah.
So it's using my card money to buy booby games. Or, actually good games.
Yeah. Fair play. Anything else you want to add?
It's just an odd policy change. I understand where they're coming from, I think. Mm-hmm. But considering everything else, this is what they go after?
Yeah. Yep, I get that. Out of all the problems that they should be looking at, they pick this teeny tiny one. That's kind of like you've got your to-do list. It's like, I got all this stuff on my to-do list. Let me check off the easiest thing at the bottom of the list. Oh, well, I was productive today.
Yeah, just... If you go to the full uncensored release, damn, it's so hard to find anything.
Yeah.
There's so many movies coming out on Steam. Have you noticed that?
I have. I mean, there's been a lot of movies coming to Steam in the last year. I don't know.
Well, I'm talking just almost indie films or student films.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm on the new game list in sarcasm quotes. completely unfiltered, and I see 5, 6 movies.
Yeah, that's a few.
Granted, page 2 is just occupied by all the Injustice DLC because Injustice 2 released, and it has $120 worth of DLC. So,
Yep.
A bit.
Yep, there were a ton of DLC packs on Keymailer from Injustice 2.
Granted, that's also, a fighting game, usually you're getting the characters that you want to play, and that's it, so that's not that big a deal. But damn. So
Yeah.
Shall we move along?
Yes, indeed. Let us move along to our next topic. Is this our last news topic? No,
2.
2 more. Next, are video games bad for your kids? Not so much. Experts now believe.
Well, this one's all you.
Which, to be fair, we've known this for a long time, and it's just one of those things that it's just taken a while to migrate into mainstream media. There was a really big, into the mainstream. There was a really big study done by the U.S. I can't remember exactly which U.S. department did it. It was in the early 2000s, and they studied thousands of cases and dozens of case studies, and just a huge study, and they found literally no correlation between video games and anything negative. Video games are not found to be addictive. They weren't found to cause violence. They weren't found to cause negative behavior, except in cases where the parents basically weren't doing their jobs. Parents were using video games like a babysitter.
Wait, you mean video games make a bad situation worse?
What?
Video games were causing a bad situation to become worse because it was being used as a crutch?
Right. Yes. But that also happens with TV and anything that you use as a babysitter and don't actually do your job as a parent is bad for your kid in that context. So that's all that they found. And actually, they found quite a few correlations between video games reducing violence in areas because they provide
an outlet.
So an outlet, clean social space, or a social space for people to come together. In areas that had higher levels of crime, it kept kids off the streets. Not all of them, obviously, but kids who played video games were much less likely to be involved in crimes. And even if they were involved with crimes, the crimes were less likely to be violent. I don't think this stuff's in the article. This is literally all off the top of my head.
Also, it's bullshit.
So the article, though, talks more about how kids these days are spending a lot of time in these online social spaces, spending 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day, sometimes on like the weekends or whatever, hanging out playing video games with their friends online.
Gambling with the loot crates.
And there's literally, in research, I did this for my thesis, talked about video games and how they affected people psychologically. There's no difference in hanging out playing video games in an online setting with your friends versus hanging out with your friends playing video games together or doing any number of activities together. As long as you're being sociable with one another and aren't basically just being bullied or being a bully, which those things are bad in person anyways, it's no different. And in some cases, in some ways it's better because you have a wider or a larger diversity of people to interact with. So you're much more likely to interact with people from other cultures, other races, other socioeconomic statuses, which increases a kid's social knowledge and emotional intelligence.
And don't forget killing them.
Yes, and also killing them. Dead with guns.
Or boobies.
So, the most recent sort of development is how much time kids spend playing games online, because even 5 years ago, that was less common for kids, much more common for older people and adults, maybe like teenagers, but you have kids now who, starting at a young age, will have been for the better part of a decade playing video games online with their friends. And studies that have been done on those kids, comparing them to kids who played less video games or maybe none at all, find virtually no difference, like no statistically significant difference between the two groups of kids. So it can be weird for parents because the world is so much different now than it was for parents, particularly people in their 30s or older who may have played games.
Wait, are you saying I'm old?
Yeah, you're an old man. Who may play games
okay,
some.
Just checking.
But definitely nowhere near this level. And obviously online gaming didn't really exist 30 years ago.
And also I would say games are a lot more accessible for the most part.
Yeah. In general, the cost of entry or the barrier to entry of games is very low. I mean, not everybody, but by and large, people have computers in their home with internet access. And the computers are powerful enough to play free-to-play games like League of Legends and others. So, by and large, most people, I want to say it's like 80-something% of people play video games now. Like, they report playing video games on self-studies and surveys done. So, and then a pretty big percentage of those, at least in our household, I think this article says that, something like, I don't want to misquote it. I feel like it's like 70% of households, but that feels maybe a little bit too high. I don't see it. Maybe I read it somewhere else. I could have swore it said that something like 70% of households have at least one person in them that reports playing video games more than 3 hours a day. But that feels too high, and I don't see it in this article, so I must have read it.
It also really depends on how you define video game.
Oh, no, here it is. Here's what I'm thinking of. 2/3 of U.S. households have at least one member who plays 3 or more hours a week. So, I was misremembering the statistic.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because, playing Sudoku or something, that's easy to rack up 3 hours.
Yeah. But, I mean, really the only negative, besides, if parents are using it as a babysitter or as a crutch, is, I mean, some people do have addictive tendencies. And while video games as a whole are not addictive, people who have more addictive personalities might find themselves having addictive tendencies towards games. And I mean, it's just a parent's job to observe, like, is my kid playing video games to the exclusion of all other things? Then I probably should get in there and find some other things for them to do. Encourage them to do some other things.
Did all my checks just bounce because my kid got a hold of the credit card again?
Yeah, or is my kid failing in school because they don't do their homework and they don't sleep at nighttime? But those are more parenting issues as opposed to just straight up issues with video games.
Well, what if I just don't like sleeping at nighttime?
Well, you're an adult, so that's okay for you.
Well, even growing up, I had trouble sleeping at night.
I was the same way as a kid. I'm not anymore, but
I should have just made it so that I woke up at like 11 o'clock at night. But that would have been smart for how I work.
Yeah, I just stayed up for days at a time. Mainly
that
energy drinks and coffee.
Yeah, that didn't affect your mental state at all, did it?
Nah, not one bit. So do you have any questions, comments?
Not really. I mean, this is pretty much what we as gamers is always suspected. It's just kind of patting ourselves on the back, really.
Yeah. It's a good job. We did it. We knew that this was true because we have played games our whole lives. So, yep. All right. Well, then let's just move it along to our last news article, which is there going to be a new Mario movie?
Yeah, this is, kind of speculation because the deal's coming closer to completion. I did change the title because they said the Minion makers, that just kind of rubs me. It's DreamWorks, isn't it? Oh, sorry.
No, Illumination.
Illumination, sorry. Illumination. So this is going to be, if this goes through, an animated Mario movie. So sorry, no more Super Mario Brothers the movie, which with what the Mario movie had to work with. Remember, this released in the early 90s and was in production hell for a while. So let's start at a probably late 80s or maybe around 1990. They didn't have a lot of Mario lore to work with. And it feels like the original Mario movie. If you just remove the names, it's not a Mario movie. It's just a typical cheesy sci-fi movie or sci-fi fantasy movie. So having an actual Mario movie, I'm all for.
Yeah. I do like the Mario Brothers movie, but in like that it's bad and cheesy sort of way. Not because it's a good movie.
Well, it is good with riff tracks.
I watched it recently. Well, within the past year, I'd say. The Spin-Off Doctors podcast, which is Jim Sterling and Conrad Zimmerman, they do video game movies. They watch them and give commentary and analysis. And that was one of the movies they did. So I've watched that in the last year.
Well, it was the first video game movie. So for what it was, it definitely has a place in movie history. And yes, I realized the non-movie guy is talking about movie history.
There you
go. But it was the first video game movie, so they didn't have a lot of lore to build on because it's a fucking platformer. And this was back in the day when a Mario game, you go from left to right, occasionally jump on a turtle, collect mushrooms, and then bang the princess. Or at least try to, and just get cake in the end. There wasn't a lot more to Mario. There wasn't a lot of lore to Mario. There wasn't a platform to build off of for a video game movie in general because there wasn't such a thing. Unless you go for... was the Wizard later? Because that's the other one that was kind of the focus on video games. And that was basically a giant ad for Nintendo products, particularly Mario 3. Or do we want to count War Games? But that's not even a focus on the game. That's more focused on what computers could do if they replace humans without any oversight. Which War Games still kind of holds up these days if you ignore the whole thing about the password.
It's the last Starfighter. I know the last Starfighter came out.
Yeah, but that's more the video game acting as a gateway. It's not what I would consider a video game movie.
That's true. According to this list on Wikipedia, films based on video games, Super Mario Brothers is the first one. Super Mario Brothers, Double Dragon, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat.
Oh, I forgot about Double Dragon being
both of them.
That was a pretty abysmal one as well, wasn't it?
It was in the so bad it's good category.
I think Mortal Kombat was probably the first really good video game movie.
Street Fighter was okay.
I never watched the Street Fighter one, but I had really no interest in Street Fighter.
It's not a great movie in terms of like, well, I don't know, just like a good movie. But in its technicality and what it did to actually represent the game, it did a pretty good job. It's just not, it's a movie made in the 90s. Video game movie made in the 90s. So it has a lot of faults, but it's not bad.
Didn't they have Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all I know about Street Fighter. The movie.
It has Sylvester Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme in it.
Wait, didn't that also become recursive because they made a video game based on the movie, based on the video game?
Yeah, they did.
So wasn't it Street Fighter the movie, the video game?
I think so. I'm gonna Google that. I'm pretty sure you're right.
Street Fighter, I completely forgot about Street Fighter. I mean, they go full Spaceballs on that. If that's correct.
Yeah, it is. Street Fighter, the movie, the video game.
Oh, as if they couldn't come up with any other title, right?
Yeah.
But to be fair, trying to differentiate yourself between all the versions of Street Fighter, kind of hard. So maybe that's what they had to do to be sure that it's not stepping on the toes of any other Street Fighter version.
There are more movies on this list. Although
any other shocking ones?
What would you consider shocking?
Well, something that you wouldn't think of.
Dead or Alive's on here. Postal. I've seen Postal. Postal was...
And let's discount anything
it's an average film
as well.
Well, I mean, Postal's Uwe Boll, but it's probably his best film.
That's pretty meta.
It gets pretty meta. I mean, it's not a good movie. Like, it's like 2.5 stars best.
Well, you already said it's not a good movie.
It's okay though. Hitman. There's been several Hitman movies.
You said it was a UV Bowl movie, so yeah, you don't have to say anything else about quality.
He's actually got a couple of decent ones. Again, spin-off Doctors. I've been watching
also
these
based
video
on
game movies.
Your taste.
No, he's got a couple that are actually decent.
But you like shitty movies, so
I don't like shitty movies. If movies are like if they fall into the so bad they're good category or like cheesy funny, it's okay. But I don't like just shitty movies. Postal was all right. You can watch it on YouTube for free. So
I think I'll pass.
If you wanna spend like an hour and a half, it captures the spirit of Postal. If that makes sense. Max Payne was a Far Cry. Far Cry is shitty. God, that movie is so bad. It's not
a Far
even
Cry
close
from a good
to the
movie?
game. It's a Far Cry from Far Cry. Tekken? They made a Tekken movie? Didn't know that. All right.
Well, that falls under the surprising one.
The Resident Evil movies vary in quality. Some of them are good, some of them are cheesy, some of them are bad. I think they're up to like 7 now. Need for Speed was pretty bad.
Yeah, didn't they just try to go for Fast and Furious?
Yeah.
And it turns out they beat the Need for Speed games for doing that by several years.
Wait, they're making another Tomb Raider movie? Is this one based on the newer game? Yeah, it is. It's supposed to come out in 2018. Rampage? Really? I guess it'll be a kaiju film.
That could work.
That might work, yeah.
If they do kaiju correctly. Is it a Japanese company or? Because honestly, I don't trust the West with kaiju movies.
New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers.
Okay, gonna suck.
Oh god. Sonic the Hedgehog. Untitled Sonic the Hedgehog film. Minecraft.
Well, it's true that Minecraft and Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, we live in the bad future.
Let's see, the Minecraft. It just links to the Minecraft Wikipedia page. I want the Minecraft movie.
I just had a thought, and I'm going to share this. What if the Minecraft movie, they went extreme low budget, and it's just people in cardboard boxes?
That could work really well, actually. There's a couple of YouTube channels that have done stuff like that. It's like people in cardboard boxes, but they actually do some decent CG with like monsters and things. That could work. I could see that working, but it wouldn't be the kind of story though that people make in their YouTube videos. So it wouldn't be as good. Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now is this the dark, gritty Sonic the Hedgehog, or the one that is propowered by chili dogs or should I say chili dog diarrhea?
I don't know.
Well, there was 2 Sonic cartoons. Did you know that?
No, I knew that there was one.
I've
seen the one that's where he's all about chili dogs.
There was another one that was actually a dystopian future. He time traveled somehow, if memory serves me correctly. It was another Saturday morning cartoon. I think running around the same time as Chili Dog Sonic. And he was trying to overthrow a repressive government. And no, I'm not making this up.
All right. Looks like Paramount Pictures is making this film, but it doesn't have a title. There's no description about what it's supposed to be. Just that it's supposed to. It was in development hell for a while, and it recently got picked back up.
So, in other words, it's going to suck.
Oh god, it's going to be a live action film.
What?
Oh no! Oh no! Actually, this might be so bad it's good. I don't know.
Okay. Now I gotta ask: live action with or without a CGI hedgehog? Or are we talking about somebody dressed up as a hedgehog?
It says live action with CGI elements.
So,
I hope that means CGI Sonic the Hedgehog, but you never know.
I'm just imagining.
No, it's a real hedgehog that they paint blue.
No, that would piss off PETA. Which would make it perfect, by the way. But I'm just imagining very bad costume of someone dressed, like a cosplay Sonic.
Postal only made $146,000.
Well, wasn't Yui Bowl basically exploiting a tax loophole
Yeah, he was exploiting a tax loophole that to increase art um, film production in Germany, and so he was taking. I mean, he was buying all these rights for like nothing because nobody wanted to make video game movies, particularly about like small time or unheard of video games. And
How is Far Cry a small time video game?
did he make the Far Cry movie?
I thought he did.
Yeah, he did.
So how's that a small
I mean,
movie?
well, this movie released in 2002. So back then, the Far Cry franchise was
Yeah, maybe.
fledgling. We are way the fuck off the beaten path here.
Yeah, maybe. Oh dear God.
Have you ever seen Existenz?
No.
You should watch that. That is not like a video game movie. I mean, it is a video game movie, but it's not based on any video game. It's weird, but it actually
I went to
correctly
UV Roll's
predicted.
Wikipedia, and I saw Rampage on his list, and I thought, wait, he's making Rampage? But no, it's a different thing.
Existenz is a really weird fucking movie, but it correctly predicted a lot of weird industry trends back in the late 90s.
Like what?
How
I don't really care about spoilers. Go for it.
so it predicted a lot of stuff to have to do with VR and how people would respond to VR. It predicted a lot of the way that industry would become, like the big companies and E3 and gaming conventions and shit like that. How that these big companies would respond. It back in the 90s, it correctly predicted the prevalence of digital, all digital games and medium as opposed to physical hardware. It had what's the thing from Sword Art Online, the Nerve whatever.
I know what you're talking about. The helmet that puts you into the game, or
Yeah, it did that back in the 90s.
Hmm.
There's a lot of interesting stuff. It's been a while since I've seen Existenz. I should rewatch it, and then I can talk about it because it's video games.
Yeah, but you know what we probably should talk about?
What?
The community corner.
We should do that. We should do that.
Because we pretty much crossed over the 3-hour mark.
Yeah, we have. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and do community corner.
All right, then.
Community corner time. We had one
We
tweet.
did have a tweet. Chemist was disappointed in us, but that's hardly new. But this time around, he was disappointed that we didn't immediately pick up on Nintendo calling their next console iteration the Nintendo Switcheroo. But that would only be the Australian version of it, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's not quite there, or at least in my opinion.
It's pretty good, though.
Yeah, I will give you that one. That was a good one. But here's the thing, is that when has Nintendo ever made sense with any of their naming schemes? They're even worse than Microsoft.
Never. They've never made sense.
And I would hope that they at least learn their lesson from calling their next game or next console the Switcheroo, because people would probably think, oh, it's a Switch add-on.
Or a weird April Fool's joke.
Or a Switch U.
I said that last week. It's the Switch U.
No, then be the U Switch.
The Switch Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eh.
Okie dokie. Well, that was the only tweet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this week on our listener question, which I got a few more, and I have made sure to note the names of the people who sent in the questions this time. So, is this the last one that we have that was from like my? I know I've been asked this question before. Okay.
We have one more, but that's one that I really can't give a lot of info on, so that would be all you.
Okay. Well, the next set of questions all have names. But for now, we're going to be talking about anime this week.
Yeah, because people wanted us to talk about it. Or at least someone did.
Indeed. So we've each got a few series we're going to talk about, and I added one, so we both got 5, right?
Yeah. Even though now I want to go make 6, but fine.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
How about a high school romance subversion? My Love Story. This is about a guy that's absolutely huge named Takio. And for all my series, I'm going to go with the first names of all the characters, mostly because I'm less likely to mangle them. Takio is this absolute mountain of a guy. He's a high school student that looks like he's middle-aged, all right? Just that big, huge. And because he's always been bigger than the other kids, everyone's always kind of been wary of him. Never mind the fact that he's a bit of a goofball, all right? But basically a tall version of you, really.
Right.
Especially since he looks a little funny.
By the way, I've heard of this one because you told me about it before.
Well, I wasn't sure if I told you about it. So we'll see if you recognize any of my other ones. Because I know I think I've talked about one other one then.
Okay.
But on the subway or on the train one day, he notices this girl, getting felt up by the name of Rinko. And he grabs the guy that's feeling her up. And it's a story about them trying to find romance because every girl that he's ever had feelings for has had them for his best friend Sunika, which is, he's pretty much the trope of the good-looking high school guy, all right? And in any other show, he would be the main character, but he's not this time. And what I really love about this is, first of all, the subversion of the general high school romance in general. The fact that it's not the super good-looking guy that's, the focus of the story. There's a lot of mini arcs with side characters as well. There's a true friendship between Takio and Sunika, one plot point of which I do not want to spoil, but it is amazing. And it's just a feel-good, funny show.
Awesome. I like feel-good, funny. This one's been on my list to watch.
Yeah, well,
for a while.
I forgot I talked to you about it, so we'll see if the ones I didn't talk to you about,
All right. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. The first one on my list is Kill la Kill. Kill la Kill is interesting. So it follows the story of this girl named Ryuko, who initially is out to get revenge, find her father's killer, and get revenge. And it very quickly turns into shenanigans. Weird shenanigans happen. There's a huge aspect of fashion, and it really pokes fun at the idea of sexualizing women, and just like, why do we have to do that? Why can't we just appreciate women for who they are and what they are? But it's not like a drama or anything. Like, there's constant fighting,
a lot of boobies.
almost like Dragon Ball Z style combat. There are these, like, so close. There's like magic fibers that can empower clothes in order to give you basically superpowers. And there's some special suits that like tap directly into the blood of the users and then the wearers, which give them like mega superpowers. And then the other suits just have powers themselves. Think like Dragon Ball Z type of art fighting craziness.
With less yelling.
With less yelling. There's some really weird characters in there. Like, there's a group that are called the nudists, and they actually don't wear clothes because they don't want to wear like the magic clothes that eat people's blood or drink people's blood.
I kind of respect them for that.
And then at some point, partway through, the series just completely flips on its head, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? And then the rest of the series, maybe like the last 10 episodes or so, are almost like a completely different anime. It's crazy the change that it makes. And that's the main reason that I would recommend it to anybody who doesn't like or who isn't into just like school battle type animes with pretty girls and boobies and nice clothes. It's a little bit, if you don't like that sort of stuff, it takes a little bit for the show to really become what it ultimately is. But then when that happens, you're just like, wow, it's amazing. And I've already spoiled too much by basically revealing the big, that there's a big twist, but it's worth it. If you can get through the weirdness at the beginning, the show that it turns into is something pretty special.
Okay, so my turn. And this is the one movie on my list. So something that you could sit down and watch in a couple hours. As a matter of fact, the runtime is just short of 2 hours. Summer Wars. This is a story about, this kid, which I tabbed off my notes. Kenji is a math genius, and he works in this virtual world called Oz. This is sort of a pseudo sci-fi, somewhat grounded in reality, but it's a little out there, also known as being Japanese. And one day, his classmate, Natsuki, asked him to pretend to be her fiancé when she goes home for the party of her grandmother's 90th birthday. And on the first night there, this is the first time that he's really encountered a huge family. I mean, this has an absolutely huge cast of probably about 20 different characters, with all of them having little personality quirks. Some of them are a little crazy. There's always the crazy uncle, right?
Yes, always. Both, especially in anime.
Yeah. Well, on his first night there, on his phone, he gets this weird message to solve this odd mathematical riddle. And he sends in his answer, and then stuff starts going absolutely crazy in this virtual world called Oz. And Oz, they built it as sort of a VR before VR was really VR. It's more of a multi-platform MMO. This was released in 2009, so really before VR really started to take off again. And everything is interconnected in this world. And I don't want to give away too much more of the plot. There's a lot of endearing characters. It's really showing how this character that's never really had a family understands how families work and how families come together in times of crisis. And it's an absolutely beautifully animated movie, at least for its time. If you look at it as a modern anime, it is a little rough, but it does the job rather well. And there are some things that are little head scratchers, but I'm willing to let it go for just an awesome story and an awesome just cast of characters.
So I've not seen this, but I've seen the cover image, like whenever you go to look at it.
Yeah, and it's just, there's two different cover images. There's the one you likely saw is of the main couple with all the family members in the background with her holding the family banner.
Yeah.
That just gives you an idea of the cast size of this show or this movie.
Yeah, and for it to be a movie, that's pretty big, I think.
Yeah, some of them don't really get much airtime, but you have the bigger members of the family and you have the smaller ones, and it's all just a family coming together in a time of crisis.
Right.
Any questions about it?
I don't think so.
I think you would like it.
I probably would. I'll put it on my list. Okay. Well, the next one on my list is Keijo, which Keijo is
boobies.
A sort of sports anime about an all-female sport where that they are scantily clad on platforms in a pool, and they have to knock all the other girls into the pool, and the last one standing wins.
Yeah, but
they're
they have
only
to fight.
Allowed to use their butts and their boobs to fight each other. So no arms, legs, kicking, headbutting, just butts and boobs and then like moving the platforms around
And
with their
absolutely
body weight.
absurd fighting moves. I've seen at least bits and pieces of all your shows, some of which I've seen several episodes of.
It is. The main character has, like, her special attack is the vacuum butt cannon. And it's like she moves her butt so fast that it creates like a vacuum and sucks people in, and then she can shoot them out.
I'm pretty sure you usually have something coming out.
It's wacky and weird, but it's all about butts and boobs, and I like butts and boobs. I mean, it's got like a background story. Like the main character is trying to become a superstar at this sport, yeah, so that she can earn money and get her family out of poverty. But I mean, it's got other anime stuff in it, but it's mostly boobs and butts and it's silly shenanigans involving those. One character has like butt missiles, and I don't know how it works, but she does a thing.
Are we sensing a theme in both of our shows? Because I have a lot more wholesome, a lot more feel-good animes, and you just have butts and boobs.
All of mine are heavy on combat. All of them are, and just in different ways.
Well, Summer Wars has some rather intense combat scenes, so I can't really say mine aren't.
And three of these anime are very clearly like in the the school tournament type thing. Keijo might technically qualify as well.
Yeah, I've also avoided the mainstay, most popular animes I've seen. Yeah, otherwise I would throw One Punch Man on, and we could just gush about that.
Actually, I figured you put One Punch Man on your list.
I specifically avoided things like One Punch Man because it's too obvious.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's Keijo. Boobs and butts. What's next?
Well, this one I think I talked to you about it, but we'll see. Interviews with Monster Girls.
We have talked about it, and I had found it also.
Okay, so when you found naturally.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm pretty sure I also talked about the next one with you, but we'll see. Interviews with Monster Girls. This is just a kind of a nice, soft high school. It's not even romance, even though I think, there is a little bit of romance going on, and a little bit of crushes going on. It's focused on three monster girls. A Doran, which is essentially a girl who carries around her head. Not like you usually do with a neck or anything. She carries around in her hands. A vampire and a snow woman, which a snow woman is a creature from Japanese folklore which freezes lovers and kills people.
All right.
Well, and do you really need me to explain what a vampire is?
Nah, I don't think so.
Well, the premise of the show is Interviews with Monster Girls is the biology teacher of the school is wanting to put in for a higher certificate, a higher degree of education for himself. And he's interested in all the monster girls and all the monsters that's kind of appeared in his world over the years. And nobody really knows anything about them because they're all rather secretive because, they're out there, people know about them, but there's never been really any studies about them. So he decides that, okay, there's three going to my school, I'll talk to them. And it turns out also the math teacher is a succubus who just happens to be joining the school this year as well. And there's a lot of shenanigans. There's a lot of just humor going on. The succubus, the succubus isn't, your typical, super sexy, even though she is. She functions as basically she gives off pheromones that makes everyone hard as Jared right now. And
hard.
And there's a running gag that she'll accidentally be super sexy. She'll take off her glasses and look at the biology teacher a certain way. It's like, holy shit, she's sexy. Or damn, she's hot. I'm not doing the show nearly as much justice as I probably should, but it's a good comedy. And yes, it does focus on high school, but it's a little bit different than your usual fare. And hey, I know this is probably going to be a point out for Jared, but they're not trying to fuck one another. Well, except for the succubus, because she has a crush on the biology teacher because the first time they accidentally touched hands, which triggers her pheromone thing, he was able to not really withstand it, didn't not have an effect on him, but he was able to, not go absolutely ape shit. And she's like, someone that could withstand my touch. Hello. So she has a bit of a crush on him.
She wants what she can't have.
Oh, there's just a lot of good jokes in the show.
All right. Well, my next one is Chivalry of a Failed Knight. This is another school magic tournament battle thing.
Yeah, I think we're sensing a theme.
Yeah. So in this one, the main character is Iki. And in this world, pretty much, well, not everyone, but many people have magical abilities. And you go to basically magic combat school, and everyone receives a grade based on their magical abilities. And he is the lowest, like he's got an F rank, which is, as you could guess, the worst rank of magic you can have. He has basically no powers. He has the ability to focus larger amounts of his energy into his attacks, and he basically doing this wears him out, but it makes him fairly strong for a short period of time. And so he focuses on training his physical body to the best of his ability to be the best swordsman that he can be. And so he initially, everyone hates him because he's terrible, but he winds up meeting his future girlfriend in the series in like the first episode, and like some silly stuff happens, and she challenges him to a duel. And
she was a S rank, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was ranked. It was A or S. She's up there.
Well, usually it's either A or S, which...
Yeah, she's at whatever the highest rank is, she's the highest rank. And everyone's like, oh, she's easily going to beat him. But because he's trained himself so well, he can learn enemies or his opponent's abilities and strengths and weaknesses incredibly quickly. And so he's able to beat her because he's able to figure out what her weakness is. And he's so fast and is able to use his... I forget what they call it, but whatever his ability is that lets him concentrate his power. And once he learns what her weaknesses are, he concentrates his power and defeats her. And the two of them have what I think is at least that I've seen, one of the best, most realistic relationships in an anime. They become friends, and then eventually they have a romantic relationship. And instead of like your typical like tropey, oh, this is, silly, ridiculous, misunderstandings everywhere. Like, they actually talk about things and solve problems together and have a very equal relationship through and through. And it's basically his journey as he ascends from the lowest of the low, where everyone hates him, to being basically the champion of the school. And how he just treats people, and it's a really good, wholesome anime that has some really crazy, awesome fights in it, because everyone in the show is basically, they have superpowers. It's also got some other stuff, like a trans character is one of the main characters, which is
rare, especially for Japanese.
And it's not a big deal. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm trans, and everyone's like, oh okay, that's cool. You seem nice enough. Do you want to be our friend? And one of the other main characters is a lesbian, and that also is not a big deal. So I always like seeing stuff like that. The light novel, or I can't remember if it's a manga or a light novel, has continued going, but unfortunately they only made one season or one series of the show, which is sad because it's probably my favorite one on the list. Yeah, it's close.
That's the
Kill
problem.
la Kill's really good too.
That's the problem with some of these anime, is that they turn into pretty much advertisements for their original properties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
All right.
Definitely
Sorry.
not unheard of to only see one season, but yeah, who knows? Maybe someday. I mean, it's not that old.
No, it's I think it was originally released the anime in like 2014 or 2015. So there's still a chance. What's next on your list?
All right, this one I may have mentioned to you before. If not, then I think you'll enjoy it anyway. Bakuman.
That name sounds familiar, but I don't know if you've mentioned it to me or not. Because I watch a couple of anime YouTubers.
This is a fish out of water story, essentially, about a calligrapher who gets pissed off at a critic, punches him, and gets outcast and essentially ousted to this remote rural island. And it's the story of a city boy learning to live in the countryside, essentially. And something else is that his house, until he got there, was the secret base for all the neighborhood kids. So guess who sticks around? Yes, you guessed it. This city boy also has to deal with at least a couple of I would say they would probably be 6 or 7 years old, maybe 5 for some of the younger ones. Kids hanging around and causing him no end of trouble while he tries to improve his technique of calligraphy and gain inspiration in this new setting. And there's a lot of really heartwarming, genuine scenes between, say, the calligrapher, who everyone calls Sensei, and the main kid that he interacts with is this little girl called Naru, which I would say she's probably about 6. She's been orphaned and, well, kinda, because she lives with her grandfather, but you know what I mean, right?
Yes.
There's been obviously some tragedy in her life, or at least they hint at it. They never say outright that her parents are dead, but they never show up, and her grandfather never talks about them. So, it's obvious something happened. And there's some just very beautiful scenes. There's some very heartwarming character growth in both the secondary cast and the main character. And it's a story about inspiration, learning to live in a new place, and learning to grow. I think you would absolutely... And that's not to say that there's not funny moments as well. There's one moment where he's at the essentially the town fair, for lack of a better term, and he's playing a basketball game. And he's talking about, it's time to reveal my hidden talent. I read basketball manga, and he completely misses his shot. So heartwarming with humor.
What did you say this is called again?
Bakuman. Barakkamon. Okay.
Got it. Put it on my list.
Like I said, I think you would absolutely love this. It's also a short series, or a single season anime that doesn't really wrap up the story, but it doesn't really have to. But the manga, it pretty much covered all the slice of life that it did. It's classified as a comedy slice of life, so there you go. That's pretty much what you should expect from it.
Cool. It sounds good. It looks good.
Yeah, it has some very impressive art, doesn't it?
Yeah. I like that. Okay. The next game on my list the next anime on my list is Asterisk War.
It's almost like we usually talk about games.
I know. Is Asterisk War, which...
You're repeating yourself.
Is basically exactly Chivalry of a Failed Knight, especially the first few episodes, but it's a much more mainstream, tropey type of show.
Well, to make things more confusing is that both this and Chivalry of a Failed Knight aired in the same anime season. And I was trying to watch them both when they originally came out. And I got so fucking confused about what was going on in what show. Because they start to diverge, I would say probably about episode 3, or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Because they're the same basic idea. This kid that has... everybody thinks that he's not really powerful, but has this hidden power through his own determination. goes through pretty much the same things.
Yeah, especially the first couple of episodes are almost exactly the same. Kid shows up. His name's Ayato. He shows up at school, and nobody knows who he is, and he has an awkward meeting with the other main character, Euless.
Yeah, isn't this the one he saw a handkerchief fall down from this open window, grabs it, and just jumps up to the open window, and she's there half dressed.
Yeah. Yep. That's the one. And so then she challenged him to a duel because he saw her half naked, and everyone's like, "Oh!"
Well, what's hilarious?
She's a top-ranked person in her.
You missed out on
school.
on some of the humor here. He offers to even the playing field and starts to strip himself.
No, that was Chivalry of a Failed Knight.
Okay, like I said, these are so similar in the first episode that I got the events confused.
Yeah, he's just like, "Oh my gosh, you're naked. I'm so sorry," and he goes to leave, and she's like, "No, fight me." So they have a duel, and he beats the shit out of her. And she's like the top ranked person in the school, and she has like all of her special gear and equipment and everything, and he just like borrows some kid's like training sword, and he beats her. So then like they become enemies, but then later they become friends, and then they get romantically involved, and it's a much more tropey show than before, and they have misunderstandings, and there's jealousy, and he's got his harem. All of his friends except for one are girls. The fighting tournament though is really good. It goes on a lot longer than Chivalry of a Failed Knight. This one got 2 seasons so far. I don't know if there's a third one in the works, but
of course this one got the extra season.
But the fighting tournament is the entire second season. And he has like a hidden power inside of him that has been sealed away, and he has to figure out how to break free of his seals to release his hidden power, and he basically becomes like a god. Well, that's not true, but he becomes like as powerful as you would think like a god would be, and he wins the fighting tournament ultimately fairly easily. Spoiler. But
dude, wait, you mean that the tropey character wins?
Yeah, it's a pretty good show too, though. It's not as wholesome as Chivalry of a Failed Knight, but it's got a lot of good character growth from the secondary characters. And like I said, the fighting tournament goes on for a long time, and it's pretty high quality, so that's good.
All right, so my last one, and let's leave all this kind of touchy-feely, heartwarming stuff. Well, okay, there'll still be some of it. And have a show that is longer than all my other shows combined.
Okay.
Fighting Spirit, Hachime no Ippo. This is a show that has, I think, 3 seasons right now, with rumors circulating around a 4th. This is a boxing anime. Think Japanese Rocky. Ippo is, well, in the first season, he actually leaves high school pretty early in the series, so technically at the very beginning a high school student, but doesn't stick around there for long. Is this wimpy little kid that is always getting picked on, and one day, I believe it's Marmura, sees him getting picked on and chases off all the bullies, and he's talking about how nobody will respect him until he gets strong. And, well, things happen, and he gains the respect of this middleweight boxer, and he takes him back to the boxing gym, and Ippo turns out to be, once you actually get him going, has a pretty powerful punch. And the coach decides that we need to train this kid now. Ippo is a featherweight, which means that he's under 126 pounds, and I believe the Wikipedia said that he was about 5'5". So, yeah, not a big guy, but he has a big punch. And the entire series, it's not focused solely on boxing. like a lot of sports anime, even your shows that are more sports themed, focused more on character development, and that's what this is. Yes, there are episodes that are dedicated just to fights, but there's long stretches in between those that shows Ippo and the, once again, rather sizable secondary cast. There's two other featherweight boxers that frequently show up, Tatua and Aokui, who kind of form the central group of boxers that you follow throughout the story, and they each also get their own little story arcs as they start training up for different matches and start trying to grow as people. And it's a story about growth, and like I said, a Japanese version of Rocky. And this, the first season is so old that it's 4:3 aspect ratio.
Wow.
It has 3 different seasons and at least one movie. And the manga is still ongoing, by the way.
I've heard of this before. Have you told me about this one, or have I heard about this one somewhere else?
You may have heard from this one somewhere else, but this is also the most mainstream of my anime I picked.
Yeah, I've definitely never seen it, but I've heard of it from somewhere.
Well, let's put it this way. If you liked Rocky, you'd definitely like this. It does take some time to get going because the kid, he starts off as a wimp, and it's his journey. So it's not quite like Rocky, where he's starting off from the very bottom, right?
Yeah.
It's not this is the entire training from the get-go. And it shows all his bumps, all his growth periods. And there's also times that it's not focused on Ippo and it's focused on the other characters. And of course there is humor as well. And I don't think really any show is without any humor, or at least intentional humor. Some things get a little too serious that they become funny, but this one, it has its moments, particularly because the middleweight boxer Mamoru is overly loud, overly confident because he's never been beaten. He gets it in his mind that he's going to win all the titles, as in he purposely loses weight to change weight classes, and it leads to some funny moments.
I suppose that would be a thing that real boxers would do too.
Yeah. There is such a thing as multi weight class in boxers. It's just takes a toll on the body because typically they try to dehydrate themselves because that's the water weight.
Yeah.
I mean, if you absolutely hate boxing, you'll hate this. But if don't care that much, you could just fast forward through the boxing episodes and enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
I wanted to include one sports anime, and it was either this or another one.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of boxing, but I don't hate it, so I check it out.
Yeah, granted, the story isn't complete because the manga is still ongoing as well, and I think they're due for another season of the anime before too long. And typically, the anime seasons are also double length. The overall episode count, I think, is 125 right now, with the movie as well, which would count as probably about 3 or 4.
Right.
But just the fact that it's not following Ippo the entire way, that also shows, other characters as well, and has their own arcs and their own growth, their own struggles. Makes it a very special anime.
I will check it out. I won't write it off right off the bat. It doesn't sound like something I'd be super into.
Yeah, it does take.
You never know.
Like I said, it takes a little time to get going, especially since the first season's so old now that the animation's a bit rough by modern standards. But if you like a character that, I shouldn't say if, since you like characters that are very determined, very self-disciplined, obviously since your last 2 picks.
Yeah.
You would absolutely fall in love with Ippo because, let's put it this way. Mamoru's challenge to be able to teach him how to be strong was that he had to hit a tree and then capture, I think it was 7 leaves as they were falling past. Just catch them as they were falling to show that he was fast enough. And this was something that he just made up because he thought there was no way this kid would be able to do this. especially after the first time. Yeah, he tried, and he just batted all the leaves away. But Ippo tried and tried and tried, and eventually was able to do it. And that's like the first episode, or the first part of the first episode, because they take him to the gym as well. But it shows his determination.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I'll definitely give it a shot.
Like I said, Japanese Rocky.
I did like Rocky. All right, well, the last one on my list is probably the most mainstream out of all of these, but it's what got me back into anime a few years ago. Sword Art Online. So, Sword Art Online, the characters in the first series get trapped inside of a game world, and the only way to win is to beat the game. It's a virtual reality MMO.
And they get to the top level of this giant tower, isn't it?
Yep, they have to fight to the top level of the tower. And, as they go up, things get harder, as they do in video games as you level up.
What, some video game logic?
Indeed. If you die in the game, you die in real life. So they have to play very carefully to ensure that they don't die. And it is really a story of growth about all of these kids who get put into an environment that forces them to become adults. I mean, yes, there's lots of fighting and silliness and wacky adventures that ensue because it's a video game and we're going to have fun with that. But the characters, especially the main characters, are not just one-dimensional tropes. This is another series that has a really realistic feeling relationship between the two main characters, Kirito and Asuna, who fall in love and get married in the game. And then when they transition back to the real world, they can keep their relationship going, and it's always there throughout the whole series. And there's not any weird jealousy or craziness. I mean, there's some misunderstandings, especially in like the budding period of their relationship. But once they get serious, they're a good couple that feels fairly realistic for an anime. Some of the later series, so the show's divided into 4 series, 2 seasons with 4 series, which are very marked storylines for each one. And the 4th series focuses a lot more on the real world as opposed to any of the virtual spaces that they go to. And their relationship is a big focus of that season. And they do a good job showing how these characters have matured and why there's something that happens that is threatening to split them up, like not because they want to, but because, they're still kids or young adults by this point, because a few years have passed. But they still live in a Japanese society, and they come from 2 different social classes, and there's just some stuff that they have to go through in order to stay together, and it feels very realistic, very much like problems that people have in the real world. And there's another series where Kirito spends a lot of time with another woman, but there's no relationship, sexual tension, anything. It's very clear from the beginning, like, hey, I'm here doing a thing, and I like you, and I want to help you, but we're just friends. And that's pretty cool. I like that, just because it feels very realistic. The first 2 series, the first season is the best. The first half of the second season drags a bit. But the second half of the second season, so the second series, is much better. So I don't really know if you need to watch the 3rd series. I guess there would be some things that you missed. Then there's also a movie. Actually, there's 2 movies. And one of them is like a completely contained adventure. And the other one, like, that you only need to have seen the first season to get the movie. It doesn't connect in any other way. Just, you would be confused if you've seen a few episodes and you go watch the movie. And then the most recent movie I haven't seen, it came out earlier this year. I don't know what it's supposed to be doing, but the second season ends on kind of like a cliffhanger that's related to some stuff that happened in the first series. And you're like, wait a second, I thought we were done with this. Where are we going? And then it ends. So I assume that the movie has to deal with that, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But it's good. It's a really good story that's got some craziness in it. It does have a lot of video game logic in it. A lot of stuff that happens because things need to move at the speed of plot. But it's still good. A lot of good stuff in it. A lot of good video game things. There's grinding, questing, like all of your favorite video games sort of like moments happen in the show. It's like where does this OP thing come from? Oh, we have to get, the Deus Ex Machina to save the day.
Yeah, wasn't the main character's big power is that he was a beta tester?
Yeah, he was a beta tester for the game, so he was able to level up really quickly and develop there are like unique skills that only one person in the world can have at a time, and he is the only character in the whole game that can dual wield, and like that's his power. Like he's so fast and so agile that he can dual wield two weapon, or well, obviously, and like that's a big thing that they keep secret. What about a sword and a fish? I guess he could. That's a big thing that they keep secret for a long time. And then everyone's like, oh my god, he can use two weapons. How can he do that? And he like single-handedly defeats a boss. Like it's about to kill a whole bunch of people and he comes in and just completely beats it by himself. And they're like, what the fuck? He's so strong.
Yeah, his sword is the one that has badass motherfucker on it.
Yeah. He goes on a quest and like single-handedly defeats a dragon. Like he drags this girl along who's becomes a character in the show. This is in one of the earlier episodes. And she's like the best blacksmith in the whole game. And so he drags her out on this quest with him to kill a dragon to get some special materials so she can craft him like a super amazing sword.
Yeah,
that was actually a really good
Arms
episode.
Actually did the Sword Art Online sword years ago.
Yeah.
Man at Arms is a YouTube series that does anime and video game weapons for real, as in real forging techniques to make the weapons as close to authentic as possible.
Yeah, I've seen his YouTube channel before. But that was actually a really good episode. There's quite a few jokes in there, like at the beginning of the episode, like she's showing him stuff, and he like winds up breaking several of her swords, and like she shows him some stuff that's like too heavy for her to lift, and he picks it up. Just like, video games, his strength stat is higher than hers. So he just picks it up and is like swinging it around. He's like, no, this is too light. And she's like, I can barely lift that, you jackass. It was good.
Do you have this depleted uranium?
But good show. I kind of want to go back and rewatch it now. The whole thing, start to finish.
Yeah, but you have some of mine to watch now.
I do. I have a pretty big list of shows that I need to watch. I got free time right now. That's probably what I'm going to start doing, is watching anime now that I've watched Lord of the Rings and have played a shit ton of video games. But
well, if you do some suggestions, I'm sure I could come up with something.
Those are all my animes. Animes.
So, are we gonna do the Discovery Queue or?
No, let's go ahead and wrap up because the recording is. I mean, some of it's gonna be silenced, but we're at over 4 hours.
Yeah, I'm looking at about 350-ish on my timer.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. And this is the portion of the podcast where I go first. And what is coming up on my channel? I don't know. I am in the middle of working on 3 separate videos right now, and I don't know which one I'm going to do. I'm currently working on another one of those I feels for...
Yeah, I still need to watch your first one.
I'm doing it for EVE Online, Factorio, and Oblivion. All of 3, all of them I started this week, and I'm like, I don't know, a quarter to a third of the way done with each of them. So if I just done one, I would have one out. But I don't know which one I'm going to do this week. I think I'm leaning more towards EVE. I don't know if I'm going to alternate between like good and bad, but EVE has a lot of negative connotations just because it's the only thing I've ever really been addicted to in my life. And no, I'm not playing EVE right now.
I was about to say, am I going to have to tell Katie?
This is all from memory and recycled footage from my YouTube channel from before, from the few EVE YouTube videos I've done, or just like getting some footage from somewhere. So I think I'm leaning more towards that one to maybe sort of do an alternation between good and bad, but we'll see if I actually stick to that. That's the intent. That's the only thing I've been working on for my channel. So I'm hoping to have that done on Saturday, just like I did last time. And if you haven't seen it, go check out my Freelancer, Why I Adore Freelancer video. It is 9 minutes and 59 seconds by accident. But it was a good video. I put a lot of effort into that one. And when I put effort into things, I can do a good job. Yay.
Okay, so explain the editing of the podcast then.
If I put effort into things, I can do a good job.
Oh.
If you want to see that stuff and any of my other stuff that I put up, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at JMA4707. I've had some very angry tweets about EA this week. I haven't been too political
I
in a
think
little while.
everyone has.
That's true. Haven't been too political in a while. May or may not get political again. We shall see. But I tweet about all kinds of random things. Twitch streams are still on hiatus while our life is backwards. That is mine and my family's life. But whenever they resume, you can find them over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. I'm also hoping to do a little bit of random streams like during the mornings or the daytime, but that would be completely solo and completely random. So
Unless you catch me on.
That's true. You could follow me on Twitch, and then you can get notifications about when I go online.
Wait, that's how that works?
That is how that works. Otherwise, if you want to be friends with me on Steam, you can do so. My username is jarthur4707. Feel free to chat with me about anything, send me questions. That's where I've gotten all of my listener-submitted questions, is through Steam.
How many of them have you poked?
One. Otherwise, I haven't poked anybody. Oh, she does. She was there for the poking.
Poor Katie.
But, yeah. Chat with me about anything at any time. Send me listener questions. I will put them on the list. I added, what did I say, 4 this week? I also don't have to put your name. If you want to remain anonymous, please let me know. But these people didn't say, so I put their names on the list.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is do not want. Do not want.
That's a phrase. I mean, I know that it's your thing, so you can break the rules if you want, but that's not a word. That's a phrase.
Well, see, it's the caption of no!
Fair enough.
So, my channel on YouTube is still extremely content light because I woke up with a sore throat a couple times and didn't want to risk recording. I have what I want to record. It's just I haven't recorded it yet. So likely going to do a session of 2 of that this week and focus on getting stuff restarted next week. RimWorld is still on hiatus until Alpha 18 goes live. Divinity is still on hiatus because someone had to have an issue with their life. And it's not me because I don't have one.
Who would that be?
Sunday Sampler's still ongoing, though. Had some more high-profile indie games. We'll see if that continues. I really don't know right now. I have a couple options. This is the first week in a couple weeks that I don't know what I'm doing as I'm recording this. So that adds a whole air of mystery to it. Or just confusion, one of the two. But you can find all of that. Well, I shouldn't say all of that because there's not much there. But all of what I'm doing right now over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube. Or you could just tweet me. Gaming with CR. I've also been very angry at EA. But who isn't right now? I mean, really, who isn't? Unless you're really, really, really cozy about Star Wars and don't care that you're getting fucked. Then, I guess you're alright with EA.
I mean, technically that describes me, but I'm not okay with EA.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that you have some knowledge about video games.
True.
And we've already established that we're the outliers. We're the oddballs. You more so than me, though. I mean, we've also established that as well. But anyway, Gaming with CR on the Twitter for all my random stuff. I have been a lot more active the last few days. So, hey, EA's provoked me. So, got that going for me.
Good job.
Since I didn't do it in the community corner, you could also email us at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or your questions, and scare the ever-living hell out of all the moths, or just tweet us, VGL Podcast, on the Twitter. If you wish to help to pay for this absolute madness, you can do so over on patreon.com/VGL Podcast. Our show notes is on vglpodcast.podbean.com, as well as our RSS feed, or you can find that over on iTunes or Google Play or wherever the hell else Jared has put this show. And rating us up would be very useful. Get us more views. Get us more listeners. Stroke our egos. Stroke something else than usual for Jared. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com. And no, I'm not going to do the Discovery Key music because we didn't use it this week.
Yes. And
bye-bye.
As always, as this lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
Hey, we got out here under the 4 hour mark.
Indeed.
Bye-bye. At least, yeah.
Bye-bye.